What is up, my OMI homies? Welcome to OMI is my homie, the show, right? Episode 19. We got lots to talk about today. I'm going to give you kind of a breakdown of some of the things we're going to talk about. Obviously, we're going to take community comments, but before I do, I should just say that nothing we say here should be taken as financial advice. We're not financial advisors. We're not your financial advisors. This is all just for entertainment. We talk about the things that we like, what we're doing. We don't know your guys' situations, right? So let's just put on our big boy and big girl pants and take ownership of the decisions that you guys decide to make. But look, what we're going to kind of cover. I don't know if you guys watched my my solo stream where I kind of debunked and used Foster Hill too, and a lot of the research and comments that he had made, the claim about the Ecomi team doing insider trading. There were some people that, like, when I was doing that video, that were like, hey, you better not be claiming that there's a glitch. Like, so I did a little bit more research, worked with Foster too. Anyways, I think that there's some even like more compelling evidence. And why I think that we want to cover this in this show today is I think it's important for people to just realize that, like, you got to do your research everywhere. And there's some people in there, whether they have a large following or not, or people think that they're blockchain sleuths or whatever, that, like, just don't take things for face value, especially like pretty significant claims like that. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that topic that's been kind of going on for the last week about VeVe CTO. Some of the tweets that he made and what's kind of going on there, OMI price action, and also comparing OMI price action to kind of other Metaverse and NFT projects. We're going to talk about Twitch subscription pricing that they just announced there, and also about NFT insurance. Is that a thing? Should it be a thing? Is it a good thing? Also, Dapper Labs talking about people withdrawing flow, what's going on there. Updates on OMI NFT and much more. So really excited to have you guys. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring on my epic co-hosts here. We got Crypto Rain and the Real Randy Chavez. Gentlemen, how are you doing?
Fantastic.
I am doing very well. Making sure Daffy is.
Okay. That's awesome, man. Yeah, I was so bummed. I've just been kind of in travel status, and then I'm traveling now. If you can't tell by the hotel room I'm in, but finally got some time where I could be back on the show. I'm super stoked to be here. And look, I want to. Well, first of all, let's say what up to some of the people in the comments there. What up, Bill? I have to. This was funny. There's this competition, right, between people just always being like the first one to comment with the when it comes out in the notification. And the only way you're going to be the first to comment, right, is if you get the all notifications bell, which is a great time to just say, hey, guys, smash, push, crush, gently caress that like, the subscribe, and the all notifications buttons. Help us grow this show and grow our channels. Much appreciated. It's something simple to do, guys, and it helps us out a ton. So if you like the content, if you don't like the content, still maybe do it. Yeah, let's see who else we got here. We got Wes. He'll buy some more OMI. Hey, it might hit it.
We'll quad zeros. That would be a $30 million market cap, and if it does that, sure, right? Yeah, we'll go pretty hard.
Amazing, some people are like, yeah, but my position would be so down. It's like, yes, it would, and it would be so cheap. I'd be able to buy more at a dream price. That would be incredible.
Yeah.
Do I think it'll happen? Probably not. Do I pray that it happens? I'm going to include that in my prayers tonight. So thank you for the idea, Wes. I like it.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about OMI price action, right? And I mean, Wes has asked that about, do I think it can reach 1 cent? Once we get to that section, we'll talk about it. Shout out to Steve Smith. So tell me if I'm saying this right in the comments, but like, to me, I read this and it's like, da, 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 da. I'm loving it. That's how I read that. Like, da, 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 ta, da, 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 da. I don't know. Probably not reading that right, but what's up, Energy? Chago Solis, what up, Abe? Abe, you were not the first one here. Sorry. Omar, G Money.
Abe was out there putting out fires.
Yeah.
Appreciate Abe.
Literally.
Hey, I just got that. I love it. Mo Collections, Eddie Brown, Big A. What's up, Big A? Croner. There we go. See, SoCal's got it, right? Just Jimmy Chris. I like. Wes, look, with the OMI FUD. Keep it up. Another week, another OMI low. It's true. It's true, right? We can talk about that. And I think that we're going to talk just about the psychology of investing and how difficult that is. I want to dive into that and talk to Rain and get Randy's thoughts more on that. Cool Mo, what up, fam? Arcturus and The Biggest Bro. Hey, The Biggest Bro also has his channel that he does as well. So if you guys don't know, check him out. A lot of fun. So, okay, we're going to dive into it. So, gentlemen, I know that we've talked offline about this a little bit, just about some of the outlandish claims that the OMI Watcher account has made in the past. I mean, Patient Hodlers debunked one of them where they were talking about the misappropriation of funds and all these things. And a lot of people follow that account because they like it will post things on kind of like OMI transfers of wallets. So people keep tabs on this account, right? And it's supposedly managed by Crypto Bro through an intern. He won't come clean as to whether he's actually the one just tweeting it, whether or not he's actually paying an intern. And look, like I said, in the past, I had a great relationship with Crypto Bro overall. I didn't always agree with some of the things. And I was clear about that. But after my video where I kind of called it all out, he blocked me. So I can't see things anymore. And that to me speaks volumes about something, right? Instead of like coming out and showing how I'm wrong, because I'm open to that. I'm not perfect, and maybe I'm misunderstanding things. I felt like I called out that video and said, I feel like this is pretty substantial to show that these claims are unsupported, and it truly is libel, right? Like that he could be sued for, or the account, whoever's managing that, like whether or not he has an intern doing that, if he's paying that intern, like he's responsible for that account, and he would be the one monetarily liable for that, right? And like, I'm just saying this because like I think it's important for people to realize like the ramifications. Now, whether or not OMI or Ecomi does anything, I don't know, right? But that doesn't take away from the fact that what they're saying, number one, especially when like you just dig under the surface and you start to see how like it's not really supported, right? Like, so we're going to get into that a little bit more. So for people who weren't aware, the claim on that account, the OMI Watcher account, was that Ecomi had the day before the OMI the NFT announcement that Stacker made on the 23rd, the OMI Watcher account posted this activity on Gate.io. Okay, that was pretty substantial for OMI in that, like, I believe it was like 14.5 billion tokens were traded, but like I can't remember if it was like a 15 minute or like an hour time frame. Like you couldn't see it on the 24-hour volume. You could only see it in one of those volumes, right? And he was like, oh, like this is like Ecomi team is doing insider trading where they're purchasing the token right before and then they're selling it the day of the announcement, right? So insider trading is a claim. It's a really substantial claim, right? And look, that would be concerning. If the team is doing that, like that's not good. Like, and that's where it's like, okay, well, let's dive into this and take a look, right? So one of the things I basically did is I deconstructed, like, does it even make sense that there's this much volume? And you can look at that in the Gate.io account, and there was like Gate.io, it was like 3.5 billion tokens that they even had. They didn't even have 14 billion. So to be able to in like a 15 to let's say an hour time frame, like those tokens would have had to have been recycled and traded and sold like 4 times. Like it doesn't make sense, right? But then what happened is I was doing that video. Someone was like, so what are you trying to say? Is that it's a glitch, that there was a glitch? You better not be saying that it's a glitch. And I'm like, well, okay, like what else could it be then? Right. Yeah. So look, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go through some stuff. Okay. Here we go. So the first one is we're going to go to gate.io and we're going to look at this. So here's the exchange trade volume on gate.io, just coin market cap as I just went here, right? Or CoinGecko, sorry. So gate.io, we're going to the, I had to go to 3 months because this was we're hitting the month mark. But look at this, guys. Okay. So this is total trading volume on gate.io. You've got like 2 billion, 1.5 billion, like a high of 5.4 billion, right? And then bam, on the 22nd, like it just skyrockets to $20 billion in dollars, right? In trading volume, $20 billion. Like that's like a 6x from like over that last month of trading volume. Like that's substantial, right? But then if we start looking at, and I'm going to just have to do this like little by little here. If we look at these different tokens, so what I did is I looked at some of the tokens that are traded on gate.io, right? Like what happened with this and seeing what makes sense. So if we go, so one of the tokens we looked at is this token called Sovereign, SOV price, okay? And basically, if you look at the 3 month volume, like look at this trading volume here. So this is what's weird. So this is the price, right? That's happening. Price $1.24. It's trading the volume on a daily basis. You're seeing it like 200,000, 400,000. But then as it gets to July, right? July 10th, 40,000. The volume's kind of anywhere from like 40 to let's say 100,000. But check this out, guys. All of a sudden you get to July 21st. And you get into this area, and then all of a sudden it's do you guys catch that? It goes from 65,000 to 6 million in volume.
Uh-oh, the Sovereign team is secretly selling.
The Sovereign team, yep, something's happening.
Those shady people. We have proof.
Like, looks like the Sovereign team is also doing this, okay? Or not. And but wait, there's more, right? So let's go to the next token, guys, right? Because again, you got to start to look at a trend and be like, okay, is this happening, or like what's going on in this time frame? And so let's check the next one. There's a token called Nebulous, okay? And again, like you're look at this volume, guys. It's like $1,200 in a day, okay? $900, $96. Like not a lot of volume, okay? And then again, you get to July 21st and 22nd, like in this time frame, and then $6.8 million in volume, $8.9 million in volume. Again, from like hundreds like of dollars of volume in a 24-hour period. Like obviously, I could go on. Like there's more and more tokens, okay? But like at the end of the day, the point I'm trying to make is that there's some sort of weird API issue with some of these tokens, because it doesn't, like, there's no way that all of these tokens that are trading in the hundreds of dollars to thousands of dollars jump up like 100 to like 1500x in trading volume on that specific day for no other reason, right? And oh, by the way, the price didn't change with that volume. Like that's the other thing, right? So I want to make this point that there seems to be accounts out there with agendas, and the Only Watcher account absolutely is one of those accounts, in my opinion, now, because now there's been multiple posts that they've done where they have basically created libel against the team, saying that this is happening, and with no support behind this, right? Like these type of claims. So all I'm asking people is probably don't follow that account for that type of stuff, especially the VeVe fam who, like, they see this and then they get all worked up. Start looking at that and saying, does this account have an agenda? And like, to a certain extent, I'm like, man, I hope that this guy's getting paid for doing this, because like, what a life to sit there and just constantly post this stuff. like, and put themselves in that position is wild to me. To put themselves in that legal risk.
I think people just don't know. I think they just don't have, like, it's never happened to them before. It's like, oh yeah, I hear people getting sued, but I don't know anyone. And things are rare until they happen to you. And then once that does happen, then that'll set the precedent. Guarantee you, if VeVe ever decides to sue somebody, which they could very, very easily, that'll just be it. It'll be a one and done thing. Everyone else will go back to their caves.
Yeah. So like, look, I'm not saying that they will, but like, could they probably have a case? I think so. And especially when, you know, it's one thing if you post something like that and then like someone disproves it and you're like, yo, my bad. Like it looked like that. It kind of seemed fishy. I could have done more research, and you just own up to it, right? But that's not what happens. Like they block me. Oh, by the way, the OMI watcher account, get this, like has blocked Ecomi. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that right there is telling you something about like what the intent of this account is, right? So basically, I'm just gonna like from now on, if someone is like, oh, the OMI watcher account or Crypto Bro has said this, I'm gonna say refer to these, to either this live stream, my previous solo one where I debunk it, or Patient Hodlers, and then say, watch those videos, and then you decide whether or not you can trust this account for any of the information coming out of that going forward. You know what I mean? And that's sad because like I said, like I'd reached out to Crypto Bro. Like I do think that he knows blockchain stuff, like to a certain extent. I've asked him some stuff and he's verified some stuff and it's been helpful. So I don't know. I don't get it, man. I don't get this thing. Like I feel like there's already enough that people could legitimately say like, this is a complaint of mine from VeVe or Ecomi without having to like manufacture stuff and such crazy claims. So anyways, I feel like I've talked about this ad nauseum. I'm not going to bring this whole thing up again, but hopefully you guys have felt that I have very substantially debunked that claim multiple times. And shout out to Foster Hill with a lot of the help that he did as dug through all that stuff. So.
Well, I just want to point out some general trends that happen. And people come into this with amazing hopes and dreams, right? Oh my gosh, I'm going to invest in crypto and I'm going to make billions of dollars with like $100 invested. And they just get very emotional. And you see like that's emotional behavior. When things aren't going our way as human beings, we don't want to take responsibility for it. We want to find somebody to blame. And then we get emotional so that anything that goes wrong, we just will justify as there's bad intentions behind it. Oh my gosh, look at this sudden volume. The Ecomi team is dumping on us. Well, what evidence do you have other than it's showing a bunch of volume and you're assuming that volume is instantly correct and that there's all kinds of maliciousness instantly behind it? And these people are just destabilized. They're not acting rational. And the truth is, when you come into crypto, if you don't learn how to act rational in this emotionally charged environment, you make really bad decisions. You end up selling at lows and you end up buying at highs. And that's why 90% of people do mediocre to poorly in crypto investing. But a lot of people they don't come here and think, I'm going to learn new skills. I'm going to learn to think like an investor. They just take the thinking they already have and throw it all into crypto. And it goes so poorly for them. And then they just find somebody to blame. Oh, it's so-and-so's fault. Cool. You're probably not right for this. Maybe the SEC is right in that you shouldn't be able to invest your money in anything. You probably shouldn't even be able to buy gambling tickets. Cool. You're making the point of the SEC that you're not emotionally ready to be in the big boy space. And this is the big boy and big girl space. What I like about being in this space is that anyone can be here without having to ask somebody else's permission to be here. But so that means somebody can come from the poorest background. But if they come and they learn to think the right way, they can do incredible things for their financial future. But if you come here and don't learn to think the right way or do the right actions, it'll go poorly for you.
There's a saying called a little bit of knowledge is very dangerous. And I think there's a couple of people that have that. For example, this one account on X, Richard 253804990. People know who they are.
That's another account that I've debunked stuff from, by the way. But
says many fans of VeVe and OMI are wondering why the token is not going up. It doesn't go up for this reason. He says, quote, David Yu is full-time with a complete token printing machine. How easy it is to receive free tokens without having to buy them. For those who know about this, the null address is used to mint and burn new tokens. In this way, the OMI is very inflationary. If it were a country's currency, it would be the worst in the world. It would beat Venezuela. $ OMI, $ VeVe, $ VeVe, 2 capital V's. While you buy, others receive free tokens and sell. OMI tokens. Source does not contain a proxy contract. The source code contains a proxy contract, which could potentially allow the functionality to be changed, such as pausing trading or minting tokens. Foster Hilt has a great response to this. For those of you that don't know or just joining, he is the Ecomi community manager. He says, this has nothing to do with creating new tokens and increasing the circulating supply. Tokens that are bridged from ERC layer 1 to base layer 2 are put through a smart contract that locks up the layer 1 token and mints the equivalent amount on base. Once you bridge back to layer 1, the layer 2 base tokens are burnt and the original layer 1 tokens are returned to the circulating supply. This is how the vast majority of layer 2 chains function. So while you have the Richard guy going and saying that this is a printing machine and David selling, using all of us as exit liquidity, it's really the exact opposite. It's actually deflationary now because of OMI to NFT. And again, this is the way that most layer 2s work. So you have somebody that has a little bit of knowledge, is able to find the null address and look at this, but is either interpreting it the impossibly wrong way, or is being facetious and making it look like trying to convince people that have no knowledge of this is what's happening, and it's completely fabricated, it's completely false. Another one that VeVe could potentially sue if they wanted to, and I hope they would throw the book at them.
Yeah, look, I mean, so here's the thing, and I think this goes perfectly with what you just read, that scenario, right? And you can attribute this to the OMI Watcher account, to this Richard account. He's like, it's a good point. It's a possibility that the OMI Watcher account may have an agenda and isn't correct with his claims, just like it's a possibility that he has an agenda and is correct. So look, I take everyone initially, they're on an even plane, right? I look at something and I say, maybe this is correct and maybe it isn't. But if multiple times those claims are being disproven and then that account just starts blocking the people that are disproving it, that's when I stop saying it's possible that they have an agenda and they are correct. And I start leaning to, like, basically they just lose credibility. And the sad thing is now it's like maybe the OMI Watcher account will post something. Well, I'm blocked, so I can't. But like, if someone brought it to my attention, maybe they would bring something to my attention that like would be a big deal. But like, I'm like, I don't trust that account anymore. I've already spent so much time debunking stuff that I'm not going to continue to do that. It's the same thing with the Richard account. So look, everyone can make their own decision, right? Whether or not they want to do that. But like for me, I'm starting to look and say, like, I feel like we're starting to see a trend to say, I can't trust this account anymore. And it appears to me to have a very malicious agenda tied to what they're tweeting out now. And so you guys do what you want, but for me, like, I guess I was force blocked, but like, I like haven't really followed that account until people bring it to my attention anyways. And that's the funny thing is if someone tags me, like they'll screenshot it and show me anyways, like if they have to. But anyways, so Jack, I hope that kind of covers that question. And then Justin, the people who run the Ecomi team and the VeVe socials, like two different people, right? And no, Ecomi did, like, the Ecomi account was blocked by the OMI Watcher account. And it's been blocked by me, as Crypto Bro also blocked me, which again, like that's their own prerogative, right? But to me, that's a red flag if you're not willing to have an open conversation and saying, because there's been times where people said like, hey, Doc, you're wrong on this. I was like, yo, actually, that's a great point. I hadn't considered that. Or, right? Because at the end of the day, for me personally, like I'm looking for the truth. I've got a lot of money in OMI and VeVe. I make that very clear. And so like, I'm not going to like, and look, there's people who listen to me, like, and I feel like there's a responsibility for me to like share with them, like my thoughts on things. And so I appreciate when people bring up stuff that are like legitimate concerns that I can dig into, because I will be the first one to say, look, I had a knee-jerk reaction when the Matt Groening signature off the Bart and Homer statue went away. I was on Randy's live stream and I went off. I'm like, I'm done. I was like, guys, I'm out. Like, you can't do this, right? Like, I hope that I've demonstrated multiple times that like there are lines that for me, if it gets crossed, like I will be the first to say, like, I'm extremely concerned here, right? And this is not part of it. So hopefully what I hope is communicated here is just be very careful with when you read a tweet to not have a knee-jerk reaction. And then especially if like over time, those accounts are continuously debunked, like their statements, like why continue to give those tweets any credence, to give them any platform to be followed? So that Richard guy, yeah. I mean, anyways, those are my thoughts there. Hopefully that answers that. Shout out to you, OBL.
OBL, my day.
What's up, OBL?
What's the crack, OBL? I hope you're doing well. I feel like you need to do a chat and Tuesday at some point in time. I miss those. I'd love to jump on. Right, we're gonna get to some of these questions here. Look, well, okay. Let's see what some of the topics are. We'll jump to this in a second. There's a lot of great questions here. I want to jump to, because I haven't got to talk about this. I know that Randy, you've done a stream on this. Rain, I don't know if you guys talked about this on Monday. I wasn't able to listen to a ton of it, but the whole CTO thing. So for those who don't know, VeVe CTO, Nestor Sanchez, right? He basically tweeted that he's stepped away from VeVe. And I mean, long story short, like stepped away from VeVe, or summarizing, I guess, and that the only person who has any real vision for the OMI token is Dr. Profit. Then you had Puddin Cheeks, who's actually like on the Ecomi team, basically being like, yo, like Nestor hasn't been to an Ecomi meeting in like 9 months. So I don't feel like he has like a standing to make a comment like that. Like he has no idea what's been happening the last 9 months. And by the way, like the last 9 months is when we've started to see like the bronze tickets, right? Like this OMI to NFT stuff, like quite a bit of things, like the soft staking, like some of those things. That's within the last 9 months that we've really start to see this come to fruition. So I'd love to get your guys' takes, Rain, and then Randy, on the pros and cons of this, right? Because like there will always be, there can be cons, and I think that we need to be honest with people and saying like, could there be concerns with this and what they could be, or both sides of the argument. I'd love to kind of hear this.
Well, first, it's never good news when your CTO is, or former CTO is, saying things like that. And then it's not good news when you defend yourself by saying they haven't been to a meeting in 9 months. Why was the CTO not at a meeting for 9 months? Why wasn't he fired before? Okay.
So, well, so to be clear, he's the VeVe CTO, not the Ecomi CTO.
Okay.
Right. And he's saying that Dr. Profit's the only one with the vision for
the OMI token.
And they have split it up. Been to an Ecomi meeting in 9 months. So yeah, sorry.
Okay, then that makes more sense, right? So yeah, he hasn't been to an update on that stuff. But it's never bad when somebody leaves or it's never a good thing when somebody leaves the company, and they always like are frustrated at the company and lack of this, lack of that. And of course, their performance might have been bad. They might have been let go because their performance was bad. But if that is the case, that they were let go because their performance is bad, they almost always flip around and be like, it's everyone else's fault. Where it falls in that, I don't know. Drama is not a good thing, but drama is so normal for bear markets. Why? Bear markets are hard, not just on people who are invested in the projects, but on the team themselves. Because the frustrations they feel from things not moving as fast as they want to, frustrations. And the truth is, every company, even some of the big ones that have become some of the biggest companies in the world, Apple, Microsoft, lots of other companies like Facebook, like there are some growing pains along the way and hard decisions made, and people left. I mean, look at Facebook. It became one of the biggest companies in the world, but like, did Mark Zuckerberg cut out the twins, and then he had to pay them $50 million? Yeah, that's all drama. Did it stop Facebook from becoming one of the biggest companies in the world? No, it didn't. So is the drama a good thing? No, it's not a good thing. Is it normal? Yes, it's actually really normal, especially at this part in the bear market. Like, you're seeing sentiment on OMI at complete lows. Now, to me, that's actually a very, very bullish thing. This isn't my first crypto cycle. For many of you, this is your first crypto cycle. And prior to this, I had been in other investment cycles. This is a bottom signal in a massive way. And especially with how bad sentiment is, not just with OMI, but almost everything. Go to Bored Ape Yacht Club and see what sentiment is. Go to any project out there. Look at what almost any project out there, their sentiment is really, really low right now. That's a bottom signal for the general market. And I think things are going to be turning around, but Maybe it even takes longer. Like, this is why so many people do so poorly in crypto. They don't weather through these storms, right? So I wish I had $1 million or $2 million invested in the last bear market, but I was building from just what I had, and I was only diversified across like 7 to 10 different projects at that point. And so people say, you always bring up the same stories. And I'm like, yeah, it does feel like I always bring up the same stories. I was diversified across not all that many of them, but like Axie Infinity, this time in the last bear market, there were very serious concerns that at 2 points, it was absolutely going to fail and go under, that they were almost out of money. And yet it didn't fail. And it became one of the biggest success stories. And what's funny is everyone likes to think that they would go back and they would have bought Axie Infinity back then. And the truth is, in fact, most of the people who had Axie Infinity back then sold at this point. Why? Oh, the team's not doing this, not doing that, and blah, 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 and all the FUD and all the sentiment is so down, it's never going to survive. The team doesn't effing know what they're doing. All the same things you're hearing about Ecomi. So when I hear all this stuff, like, I'm immune to it. I've been through these cycles so long, and it's like, is VeVe on track with producing the best digital collectibles out there versus everyone else? I think so, personally. Secondly, are they doing a pretty dang good job at making more good decisions than they are bad? In my opinion, absolutely, especially versus their competitors. Third question is digital collectibles something that's big in the future? Oh, I think it's massive, and they're leading that. Cool. So the OMI token, what if it went down another 6 months? What if it went down another year? I'd be like, dang, I could have got so much more if I'd had a magic crystal ball and knew exactly where the bottom was going to be. But I don't have one of those. So it's an unrealistic expectation. What I would do is I would just dollar cost average into more. Cool. Now, do I think it's going to play out that way? I don't think so. I think we're pretty near the bottom, but we'll see how it plays out. I thought Cardano was a great deal last bear market, 11 cents. Till it went to 9 cents. And I thought, oh, that's a great deal. And then it went to 7 cents. And then it went to 5 cents and then 3 cents, which 3 cents, I loaded the boats. But it did go to 1.7 cents for ever so short. And then it went 200x from there. Cool. The FUD I'm hearing about OMI right now reminds me of how thick and strong the FUD was on Cardano back in 2020. Cool. How'd Cardano do? Well, it did 200x from the bottom. What will OMI do? I look forward to finding out. But all these people running around saying OMI is dead, they don't know what they're effing talking about. Anyone running around saying OMI is dead or David Yu's an idiot, like, you just lost all credibility to me. They're not anywhere close to dead. Now, you could say, I'm worried that OMI is dead. Cool. That's legitimate. OMI actually being dead, you literally are just exposed yourself for being brand new to the space and not understanding what dead really looks like. Cool. David Yu, I don't know. I've been doing business in different forms for 30 years. I really like him as a founder. Anyone running around saying bad things about him, I just have very little patience for you. Now, if you made an articulate argument of, I think he could have made a better decision on this, cool. I'll take those kind of arguments. That's an articulate argument taking an exact point of where you think you could have done it better. I like that type of thing. Just running around calling people names or saying they're stupid. I just have no tolerance for you. I don't have time for you in my life. If you really understood what the next year looks like for us, you would waste no time with any negativity. You would be working as many extra shifts as you could at work, and you would be putting that money into some of these projects that are way, way down. And sure, you don't like OMI? Cool. You would be loading the boats on something else. But yet so many people, they aren't working extra hard because they don't realize the real opportunity. They don't know what they have their hands on, and they're just spending all their time to jump on and troll. And I just decided I don't have time for those people anymore. I know I have a channel, I have reach, and I would like to be able to hear their thoughts. But if they're making totally unintelligent arguments, I decided I just don't have time for them in my life. If somebody comes to me and says, hey, I'm scared OMI will fail because of this, cool. I will absolutely take those kind of arguments. Somebody says OMI is dead, or, David Yu or VeVe, they're all scammers. Or I also don't like it. I saw it in the chat when somebody says all the lies over the last 3 years. Well, okay, so I'm not aware of any specific lies. Now, I'm going to differentiate between a lie and something that doesn't play out. So does OMI miss timelines? Yes. Every tech company does. So have they missed timelines? Absolutely. Is that a lie? Do you understand what the word lie means? They're not even close to the same. That's not a lie. A lie is an intentional misstatement of the fact to deceive. Were they intentionally trying to deceive you and lie and then miss the date like on purpose? No, that's not how it played out. And so when you use words like lie, you just realize you're killing your own credibility with me. If you say, gosh, some misstatements or that, you know, their timelines have been wrong, cool. That's how you debate with me. That's how you make arguments that are intelligent that we can actually learn from. And that's the type of debate and discourse we'll take. If you just run around making dumb and emotional statements like, oh, lie, and so-and-so's an idiot. If you're on my, just going to block your comments and ban you. I'm sorry, I don't have time for you. You need to go back to some kind of like business school, some kind of investment school, come back, or just some kind of ethics school and learn the difference between a lie and a misstatement. And then maybe you can come back and have a good discourse, because if you're not even having a right discourse, you're not going to learn anything. And if you're not here to learn how to become a savage investor, you're going to miss out on the best opportunity of your life. And you will look back and you will remember this and you'll be like, F, all these people made tens of millions of dollars and I wasted my time running around saying David Yu was a liar. Yeah, you will have wasted your time running around saying David Yu is a liar instead of, oh my gosh, you know, they made some misstatements and shoot, the timelines got pushed and yeah, and the company ended up surviving anyway. Wow, gosh, you know, sometimes companies miss dates and they still survive. I didn't know that. I was new to business. You might, you know, realize. And then the next bear market, when things are terrible and you find companies that you feel like have good leadership, but some timelines are missed and everyone's fudding it and it's at the bottom, you might then realize, oh my gosh, this might be a buy time rather than a sell time. And then you load the boats and then you reap the financial gains that everyone else seemed to miss.
Yeah. Well, and look, I think that this is definitely a big part of it. Big A says, I know almost all the fudders. Basically, they're just upset they lost so much money on VeVe while most cryptos are up over the past year. I always tell them to use that energy getting gains. I love that advice, man. Like, look, like I've been buying, and the funny thing is, like a lot of those fudders, they bought OMI maybe at the same point that I did, and then they've sold out, right? Where I'm still buying. Like, that's the difference, you know. But like, I've been in projects that have rugged, and it sucks, man. Like, oh man, it's so like legit rugged, right? Like they just took our money and ran. I mean, and they lied about stuff, right? Like that's happened before and it's frustrating. But you know what I don't do? I don't spend time tweeting about that and doing all this thing, because I'm just like, you know, I'm going to use that energy to go find something that is going to be successful, right? Like, so like it's a decision for everyone, but what a miserable life, honestly. Like, and those are the people that dwell on that and they spend all of their energy on that. Tell me if you truly believe that those people are going to be successful. And if they carry that into their like day jobs and stuff like that, like, are they successful in real life? Like, let alone like investing, you know? So, I mean, I love that advice. And look, is it frustrating to lose money? Yeah. But like people are acting, and even the fudders right now, only this, like the thing that came to mind for me is, I don't know if you guys saw, there's a speed walking race that happened during the Olympics. And the Spaniard, she's sitting there and she's close to the finish line, right? And she just starts celebrating. She's like, woo, like I made it. And then all of a sudden, like her competitor just whizzes past her and she's like, oh. And that's what I feel like the fudders are doing right now. They're celebrating. They're like, oh, look, OMI's down and it's this dead project. And I'm like, we haven't hit the bull run. We're not at the end of the bull run. Like, and maybe you'll do that victory like then, but like you're celebrating way too soon, my friend. And so to kind of answer this question, like Ryan says, and sorry guys,
Ryan, I just want to go over something that Big A said there, where he just said most cryptos are up big over the past year.
Yeah.
I think if you take a look at the top 100 or even 200 or 300, yeah, you might be right. But be advised that most cryptos are down and they're at zero or near zero. Or they
altcoins is a big thing, right? Like,
yeah. So
yeah.
Just to correct, I know I'm nitpicking here, but I think words matter, and that leaves the impression that every single other crypto is up except for OMI, and that's not the case.
Yeah, and it's not nitpicking at all. It's an inaccurate statement that most crypto projects are up.
If it may feel like that, right? Because if you're in a token that's going down, and you'll hear about the tokens that are going up, that's what your brain focuses on, right? Just like if you get like a new car, or like then you all of a sudden you see all of the same cars that you never saw before. You're like, well, there's so many on the freeway. They were always there. You just never saw it. It's kind of the same concept of like you're only seeing the winners instead of like also like you're not paying attention to losers. So then it feels like all of the tokens are going up except for this one token that I have.
And it does feel that way oftentimes, that like you see everyone that goes up versus whatever you're holding. That's frustrating. It is totally a bias, because what you're seeing is all of a sudden these other ones being discussed that are way, way up versus yours. And that it gives you a perception bias, because there might be 10,000 other projects that are down more, but 5 that are massively up. And you're comparing those 5 that are up versus whatever one you're hoping. So it's like everything is up versus my bang is like actually only 5 went up, but those are the 5 you're looking at. So it feels that way. And in our emotions, our feelings like wreck us all the time.
I think this is important, right? Because we have this show, OMI is my homie. I mean, that's the title of the show. I'm wearing the Ecomi hat, right? Like, so let's say that things continue to not go well. Like, at what point, right, do you say like this is a write-off? I'd love to. Let's go with Randy first. Randy, at what point would you write this token off and be like, look, it legitimately is dead?
Sure. I would say when the thesis of the company changes, and when you have the company that right now is still making money, and they're not just making money like in a profit. And I know we just made the argument to not compare it to other things that are up. But if we compare it to other things in its same vicinity that are in digital collectibles, let's just go with the ones that have already failed. Recur and DraftKings, their NFT marketplace, they're already gone. They had the same, if not better IP. I mean, some of them just had different ones. And they had more money scheduled for marketing. VeVe has been consistently very frugal. Just if you want to say it cheap, that's fine. But I would say very frugal and very conscious where they're spending their money. And then you have other platforms like Hero, Cryptoys. I think Cryptoys over the past couple days had maybe $1,000 in volume, and the fees getting maybe like $100. That's not a sustainable business model. As Immutable X closed their NFT marketplace in favor of third party, where's Hero going? That was the only place that Hero was like. If you take a look at these other companies, Candy Digital, all these things that are not making money, or if they are, it's such a low amount that they can barely keep the lights on. And then you look at VeVe that does on a bad day, on a drop that a comic that nobody cares about will make $7,000-$10,000, and that's more than most other companies make all month in the same scenario. And VeVe can go and they can raise money whenever they want, selling off pieces of the company if it came to that, which I don't think it needs to. So I would go in and write this token off if they stop making money, or if something came out about the founders that they weren't who we thought they are. But I can tell you that I've interviewed David multiple times. We're friends. Dan, much less. I still love Dan. He just doesn't come on a lot. So I would go and say if the thesis of the company changed, or if it came out that the government, whether this administration or the next one or whatever, they somehow decide to outlaw these digital collectibles for whatever reason, as crazy as that sounds. But I like companies that generate profit. I like companies that are disruptive and innovative, and VeVe continues to check all those boxes. And they don't waste time on. I know people like, okay, well, I really like Cryptoys because they have this animation. That's great. If VeVe wants to do that, they can do that. But I think capital allocation is one of David's strongest suits. Like, he's the best salesman in the world. That's how he gets all these licenses. But capital allocation is probably going to be the thing that I think people talk about least, but is arguably most important. So that's my response on that.
What about you, Rain?
Well, most people don't understand what crypto really is even about. Like, they literally they think it's like magic internet money. And when you see meme coins, which are nothing, going crazy, you further buy into this idea that crypto is magic internet money. What you're investing in sometimes isn't as tangible as like stock in a company. Stock is much more tangible in that you own a percentage of that company. In crypto, what do you own? You own a token associated with a company, and it's a risky proposition. If that company really gathers some traction, that token may go crazy, like you don't even see in stocks, or it could go to zero. So one of the concerns people have, and it's a legitimate concern, is what is the OMI token really? I mean, when they initially started this company, they used OMI to raise funds. Cool. That's what all crypto projects were doing. And they made certain promises of what they were going to do related to the token. Now, some of those promises they've had to change direction with, because as regulatory clarity came about because of lawsuits by the SEC against other companies, they thought, oh, well, shoot, they didn't give us guidelines on this, but now they're suing other companies. Let's stay out of their field of fire. So I know we talked about burning, but we're going to have to hold off on burning. We're going to have to find a way. We still want to deliver on that promise, but we have to find a different way to do it. Otherwise, the SEC could like sue us, and that would put us out of business. Cool. That seems like a responsible thing for a new company to do, and a responsible route for them to go. Some people then jump to they lied. They said they'd do burning. Well, they did say they'd do burning, and they intended it at the time. Did they have to change directions? I'm sure glad that they did change directions on that, because I would actually have lost faith in them if they move forward with the burning. Being such a big company with such huge IP, they would put themselves as a squarely in front of the US SEC to go after. And the SEC would have loved that, because it would be such a juicy target for them to go after, to make an example of. And some people say, oh yeah, XYZ company with $1,000 market cap or $1 million market cap, they're doing burning, and the SEC hasn't gone after them. Yes, and that little shit company doesn't have partnerships with Disney and Marvel and stuff. The SEC wants a juicy target, and somebody doing deals with Disney and Marvel, that's a juicy target. So they're just too big to be able to make decisions where they're just lost in the fold of everyone else, because they have such big intellectual property associated with them. The SEC went after Flow, and guess what? That was nice for VeVe, because they could see what the SEC went after them for and be like, okay, we wish you would have given everyone clarity on that, but now that we see you suing them for that, we're going to make sure we go a different way than that. Cool. That also seemed responsible. Did that leave people mad? Yes, they said they were going to do OMI to NFT on the app. Well, can't you understand why they changed direction on that after the SEC went after Flow, one of their competitors, for controlling the marketplace and the token? Cool. So they're making lots of responsible decisions. I was really worried about OMI about a year and a half ago. And what I was worried about is their development life cycle their software development life cycle was too long, meaning they weren't fixing any problems in the app in a reasonable timeline. And that told me that their leadership on their app development was broken. I called Doctor of Stuff, and I'm like, I'm really concerned. Everything is pushed. So little is making it through, and when they do, it's just mediocre. I'm concerned their processes for getting the app fixed and improved aren't good, and if they don't fix this, they're going to lose all their audience. And guess what? I had some talks with the team. They're like, oh, we're very aware. We've been working on this for 9 months, and yeah, like we're way behind. And then not long after that conversation, we started to see fixes coming through, and just the queue getting addressed and then fixed. And so that's the only time I've been massively concerned about their future. And they fixed that problem. Am I concerned with their future now? No, I just rated as my number 2 pick. Cool. You don't agree with me on that? Fantastic. I would say I have pretty damn good track record, but maybe I'm wrong on this. You know, my first bear market, I made some mistakes. Some of the stuff I invested in went to zero. And I did invest in meme coins back then. I really didn't know what I was doing. I had some good lessons I learned. This time, my juicy thing that I like to invest in is companies that came out somewhere between 3 to 6 years ago Their token has been absolutely punished by the bear market. Yet they actually have a business model that you can see happening and things going well, and they have a good team. And Ecomi falls so squarely in there. It's the one I'm the least worried about failing from now into the bull market that still has potential for massive gains. And that's why I rate it my number 2, but also the only one that if I were to go all in on one project, it would be Ecomi. Cool. Some people are going to have a difference of opinion on this. Last cycle, the one that I rated that way was Cardano. Cool. Cardano from the bottom went up 200x. Now, there are other ones that I picked, like Axie Infinity. It went up 3000x. Cool. Axie Infinity was too risky for me to go all in on. I never would have gone all in on Axie Infinity. Too risky. Did it have higher multiples? Oh, yeah, it did. But it was also much higher risk of failing than Cardano was. Now, there were lots of people that disagreed with me. There were lots of people running around at the bottom saying Cardano was 90% chance of failure, or most were actually saying Cardano's already dead. You just don't realize it yet. Who ended up being right? Well, I did. So I look forward to the next year. We're going to see like how things play out. But I feel like OMI right now is like me having 4 aces in my hand. Like, could you lose? Yes. The chances are just slim. I like these kind of odds. I like the team. I like the quality of the digital collectibles that they have. As bad as the bear market is, and most companies are absolutely getting crushed, they actually still are selling their collectibles and have revenue coming in. So their chance of actually failing as a company that actually has revenues coming in, like they are standing way out above the crowd. Now, I get it. There's a lot of people that are new to this. They don't have the 25 years background that I do in investing, and this is scary as hell. Cool. Make whatever decisions you feel comfortable with. What I then ask you to do is just watch and see how things do play out versus what your emotions were telling you versus what the different logical arguments that you were making were, because this won't be our only cycle. This isn't your only chance to make your future. Look, we're way down right now. The pendulum swings too far each way. High in 2021. It swung way the hell back. It's going to swing really high again in the coming bull market. Hopefully you were able to buy things while they were dirt cheap, and hopefully you're able to sell them when they get really expensive. And then you're well prepared for the following cycle. But even if you miss everything from here to that big swing up, don't buy then. You're waiting to buy cheap. Wait to buy till everyone's scared, till you're feeling this level of FUD again. And then you'll have an idea of, like, you'll be so much more informed. You'll have better experience, better as an investor on how to analyze will projects succeed versus fail. And hopefully you can take that ride up and make some life-changing gains. You're in, like, I've never seen an investment cycle that's so short before with such big swings that crypto is like this is the opportunity I've waited for my whole life. Before this, I was doing real estate investment, and that from the top of one market to the top of the next real estate market is often 17 to 21 years that you have to wait. In crypto, from the top of the market to the next top so far has been every 4 years. I mean, that's a really short cycle. And think about how far that pendulum swings. That creates wealth opportunities. With real estate, you often have to borrow to buy real estate, and borrowing really puts you at risk of things failing for you. In crypto, the swings are so volatile, you're dumb if you're borrowing anything to buy crypto. You can just buy it with extra money that you're earning through working overtime. And the swings can be so big that in a 4-year period, it can make a massive difference in your financials. It's an amazing place to be. This opportunity I waited for my whole life. And now I had a thesis in 2018 through 2020 that the market was going to turn around. If I just kept accumulating while it was cheap, it would go really well for me. I didn't even realize at the time how well it would go for me. And when I hit the top in 2021, I was like, it went 20x up over, not quite 20x, about 18x my portfolio did over what I hoped it would go to. Like, it vastly exceeded my expectations. What a wild ride. And we're setting up for one of those again.
Yeah. I mean, so to circle back, right? I mean, we just talked about OMI, which was our next topic anyway. So, like, I mean, we can dive in a little bit more about that. But, like, with respect to the CTO thing, I think that There's some pretty solid comments here from Valentin Zamorano, right? He says, I'm in the software industry. The way this guy tweeted about VeVe shows how much experience he lacks. And then also, like, if a recruiter or hiring manager sees that tweet, that would be considered a red flag, right? He kind of closed a lot of doors to his future. Now, look, maybe he doesn't care, right? Because he kind of, well, go, Randy, you go ahead first, right? And then, like, I'll cover this, and then we'll jump in a little bit more to the, like, I feel like we've covered OMI, but I want to cover a little bit of, like, what Wes has said and some other comments there before we just jump into more of the agenda.
Yeah, sure. So he's got, I don't know Nestor. I think I maybe had one quick conversation with him over DM. And I really love Puddin', so I'm a little biased here. I'm going to side with Puddin' on that, on what he said. But I think one of the reasons that a lot of people don't work out, and I don't want to say this just about like Gen Z, because I think he's around my age, Nestor. But I have noticed that from older millennials to, you know, down below, it seems that there's been a generational, not gap, parting, where the younger generations are really more about lifestyle and balance, and they think that they can accomplish things by working 30 to 40 hours a week, and sometimes you can if they're little. So I don't know where Nestor was coming from, but he did say he had another company that he's working on, and that other company, I think, has had to do with AI. There's like 500 followers on X, and maybe he thinks he could do that. But as far as that goes, yeah, that doesn't show good foresight. He's not thinking about his future. So it was an emotional tweet. If I could speculate, which I don't really know if I should, but I'll just say it here, it doesn't sound like he left willingly and that parted good ways. It sounded like he was probably asked to leave. But again, that's just the way I'm interpreting it, and that is speculation. So, you know, chalk that up to what it is. But at the end of the day, people are kind of using that, and they're saying like, oh, this isn't a good look for VeVe. If anyone's ran a company with more than like 12 employees, you'll know that you'll have different personalities there, and people butt heads. Like this isn't proving anything. It's like, oh, it's got to be chaos back there. It's got to be, you know, wild, wild west where everyone's fighting with everyone. If you have a company with 1 to 200 employees, there's going to be people that butt heads. You're going to have office politics that happen. So I think that's something that people kind of forget, because somebody manages a company with 3 people, with like 2 or 3 employees. They think that they know how to run a business, but VeVe's obviously not just running a business with 100 to 200 people. Contractors, people are doing different things, but they're also doing this in dozens of different countries, if not like every country, like 100 different countries. So there's a lot of, you have to cut them a little slack. And I know that's not a popular thing to say, because like, oh, you always defend VeVe. I mean, if it makes sense, I mean, I understand why these things are happening. That's really all I have to say about that. Let me know if you have any questions on it.
Well, I'll say this. It's never good when your CTO leaves, regardless. Like, unless you already have like a replacement, which we don't know. I don't see a posting for CTO. I haven't seen a posting.
For this position, you don't do that though. Like, you don't just like post.
Yeah, you get headhunters. You typically get a headhunter, right? Yeah, typically that is the case. So yeah, we aren't. I don't know, but let's just say that if VeVe is without a CTO, like that's not a good thing, right? Like, unless the CTO was not doing their job anyways, then maybe like you can cover it, but long term, like if they're without a CTO, like that's something that needs to be backfilled. Now it can be covered, you know, but so I would say that would not be good, right? As I'm trying to look at it just realistically, the tweets were immature regardless, you know, like even if you leave on good, especially if you leave on good terms, like what are you doing? Right. Saying some of that stuff, but like, it sounded like he'd been working on this project. Like, it didn't sound like he just started. He's like, oh, I'm going to start this new project. It sounded like he was like working on another project, which to me, that's not a good sign. So what are you doing as the CTO of a company, and you're working at this other startup or doing something there? So maybe there were some issues there where he'd started working on some other things, and they're like, yo, what are you doing? This is all speculation, right? Like, so like, I don't know, but I would just say, I hope that we get, if VeVe is currently without a CTO, That's something that needs to be remedied as they are trying to build like a larger brand. They've got a bigger company that just helps organizationally and operationally to have those figureheads, right, to make those decisions and help things run more smoothly. So is it long term? Is that a big deal for me? No, because is VeVe going to get a new one? Sure, and hopefully they get one that's probably a little bit more mature in that aspect. So
you need one with experience.
I mean, well, hold on. If you're going to say that, are you saying that he didn't have experience? Because that's not good either, right? Like, what do you mean?
I mean, when back in the day, 3 years ago, when they would go in, part of the reason why they got kind of in trouble a little bit is because they would hire one team to do one specific task, and then they would hire another team to do another one. But if you're the CTO of a company, that you're like the architecture, and if you're building a company or a building, and you have one team of architects build like the basement plan with the plumbing, and then you have another team trying to do something else, suddenly the plumbing's in the way and you have to rework it, but they were only hired to do one task. So I think that's why he was hired along with Mitch in the first place. But to get to this size, it's slim pickings for people with experience for companies this size that are looking to grow exponentially, and you have those growing pains. And I can't say I've looked at his resume, but I feel like I remember checking him out and when he was first hired, and I don't remember seeing a long list there. So to get something like this, one, I'm sure they're probably enjoying not having to pay the salary for a little while, and maybe Dan can fill in. But for this type of thing, you would need someone with a lot of experience that has done this type of thing before. I'm not saying you have to get someone from Apple or Google or Amazon or anything bang, but to have a company that's responsible for this tech stack that only gets more complicated as you grow and all these development processes, you need to have experience, and you need to have done this before.
That's a good point, right? Like as a company grows, like there's people with the experience where they can manage kind of like a smaller company, but as it gets to be bigger and bigger, they just don't have that experience to manage that, and it becomes kind of like too hard for them to truly manage to that level, and you do need to bring in someone. And so all of this is definitely speculation, right? But like so look, we'll see and what happens, but this is I would say like a point in a line, as like I'm trying to assess things. This is one data point, and I would say that like a high level executive, C-suite executive, like leaving. I wish I knew more, so we can only kind of speculate. But because I don't know too much, I can't speculate too much without it just being meaningless to a certain extent. But I would just say that the tweets were immature, and it was very interesting because you had these people who were complaining that VeVe like hadn't been advanced, they hadn't been doing anything, which to a certain extent would kind of fall on the CTO's shoulders, like if the tech isn't advancing, and so they're complaining about that. But then those same fudders, as soon as Nestor says like he's leaving, they're like, "Oh, this is terrible. This is a terrible thing." And Nestor, it's like, "Well, wait a second. I thought you were complaining about VeVe not advancing, and if that's partly his fault, and now he's leaving. Is that not a good thing? But now it's a bad thing." And that's again where like I love Sketchlab's comment: negative posts often garner more engagement and attention, and social algorithms may even often prioritize it based on how quick the engagement may be. And then he just says. So I take what anyone says on social with a grain of salt, And again, it's the agenda. What's the agenda? Look, you guys can sit there and say, like, do I have a certain amount of bias in how I assess things? I think I do. And I think that's because I've met the team and I feel like I know their characters more. And so like be aware of that too, right? Like, but I do try to be more like realistic in these assessments because I got real money on the line here with this, right? And honestly, like if I think this ship is sinking, I'm going to sell, and I'm going to tell you guys I'm selling, but right now, like I don't feel that way. And I'm continuing to put money in there. So, and then just real quick, SoCal OMI homie, no point in suing. I think he's referencing the whole OMI watcher account. There's no damages. I don't think you can prove that there's no damages. No. I think that there's a lot that they could actually demonstrate if they lost any followers, during that time period. And like, as long as that post is up, if they lose any followers, they could say, this could be somewhat attributed to this, right? And this account keeps publishing these things, and look at the engagement on that. And like, so I don't know, like, but to say there aren't any damages, I disagree there. And look, like Big A, Bored Ape is up 35% in the past week. There are some projects, NFT projects, that are up, right? And yeah, like, but the thing.
But in the last week, if we went back a week ago, it was way down. So it's like, cool, they're up 35% this week, and maybe they'll go up more. I do think they're a good project. They'll survive.
Yeah,
sentiment is way low. Like, go into the Bored Ape. Like the amount of FUD in there from their community members is gigantic. And what they're really saying is, and we see this here in the chat, oh my gosh, prices have gone down for 3 years, and I'm just sick and tired of the prices going down. So therefore, every mistake the company makes, I'm going to jump all over on them. Now, what's funny is if the bear market comes, or the bull market, like the blow off top of the bull market comes 2 weeks from now, and really the company just continues on its same trajectory, but the bull market comes in, all this new money comes in from new people throwing in there, and prices go up 500x. Nobody will be complaining about, oh my gosh, they're taking so long. Oh, we just lost the CTO. What they're really saying is like, I'm frustrated the price hasn't turned around yet. 3 years feels like forever. And I feel like if they made all these better decisions, that its price would have turned around sooner than this. And the chances are that that's not even correct. They've managed to survive to this point, and VeVe specifically has done quite well in surviving this bear market. The goal sometimes is just surviving the bear market and not losing all of your audience. Because have they lost some of their audience? Yeah, every project has, including Bored Ape Yacht Club. So sometimes you're just trying to survive until the next bull market. And then the next bull market is new people come in with new money. Then things go crazy. Everyone turns way bullish again, like overly optimistic, and it's never going to stop. And then the cycle repeats. People buy in at highs, and then for the next 3 years, they complain about every mistake the company made. And then they eventually capitulate and sell out, and the cycle then continues again. And what's funny is you're going to see that 4 years from now, you're going to be in the bottom of the next bear market, and you're going to see people making the exact same arguments about whatever other new company. And you'll be like, oh my gosh, this is what Rain was talking about. Oh my gosh, this is so funny. Like you could even predict that 4 years from now, the same stuff is going to be going on with even VeVe. Why? Because like I think OMI will go up in the coming bull run. And then what will happen after the pendulum swings too far up? The same thing. It'll swing back, and you'll have the same kind of concerns 4 years from now from people who bought at those highs, that chased into those highs and aren't owning their own responsibility and just wanting to blame the team because the price should be so much higher if the team would have done XYZ thing differently. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So look, there's a couple of comments. Well, first of all, appreciate the concern. I don't know if you guys can see the head. The head is healing.
Yes, the Harry Potter scar that went straight.
Yeah. Oh man, did I tell you guys? Like I was there. The true story. I was there. The doctor stitching me up. I'm like, yo, doc, is there a way to kind of turn the scar to lightning thing for me? I mean, I'm like, it is like perfect right there, you know. And he's like, yeah, no. And I was like, I would have a perma Halloween costume. And he's like, no, man. And I was like, fine, I'm not tipping you then.
He could have. He just would have had to take the scalpel and like cut it and like make it worse.
And I was like, look, man, I was like, yeah, like honestly, like I sign off on you doing that. I'll sign whatever waiver you want. You know what I mean? Like, because it's, I mean, literally people joke about it being the Harry Potter scar anyways. It might as well be the freaking lightning, you know?
Yeah.
But that would have actually been pretty epic.
You know, you can go back with a good plastic surgeon and just get it corrected that way. He'll do it.
Okay. Maybe when OMI does some things, you know? People asking why Crypto Wayne wears sunglasses instead of an umbrella for the rain. I thought that was pretty funny.
I like that question. Valentin, you crack me up, brother.
Look, I want to address this too. So Steve Smith says, it's all risk reward. I worry Disney won't renew contracts. The sales volumes are low, and sometimes I wonder what is the point for Disney? Why bother for 1,000 sales? I'll say this. This is still a new technology that's coming. And honestly, like, why bother? They're getting recurring money on secondary sales, right? And if they look at the competition, like OMI's the big player in the space, right? So like, if anything, if Disney at all is saying we think that digital collecting is the future, like that's going to be a bigger thing going forward as the technology advances and it gets kind of cheaper and there's better metaverses kind of built where we can show these things off. Like that's where I like, does Disney double down? Like that's a legitimate question. But Steve, I like, these are the types of questions that I love addressing. Let's talk about that, right?
Steve,
and like,
is there a risk?
There is a risk. There is a risk. Be aware of that risk. You have to consider that. You have to consider and so is that the case? Like it may be, like, I don't know for sure, Steve. Honestly, like it could be that Disney's like, well, this is not panning out. So please take that into consideration. I love these comments. These are the comments that I really think, instead of attacking people personally or whatever, like these are the great questions, right?
Yeah.
So
this is investor analysis right here.
Yes, this is awesome.
And it's like, that is a reward. What if Disney didn't renew any of their contracts? Now, from just my sources, and maybe they're biased, Disney's really happy with the recurring revenue. Like, holy shiz. DC, when they realized later that they didn't set up on their initial things for the recurring revenue, had an effing fit when they realized how much money they were losing. So I'm sure Marvel is like, man, what an amazing decision. Disney, what an amazing decision. But should that relationship sour, that could be a concern. Now, that doesn't mean VeVe's dead, but would it be a concern? Yes. And that's the kind of questions that we always want to be looking at. What if Disney doesn't renew the contracts? Sales volumes are low. Like, what's happening? Is Disney making money? Are they looking at this saying, nah, never going to do this again? Or are they looking at, geez, we did those pins with Dapper Lab and nothing is happening there. And look at what's happening with VeVe.
Yeah, I like that. Randy, it looked like you were going to say something.
No, it was something I mean. On this, again, this is not FUD. This is just someone that's just a little worried about this particular risk and addressing that. Can you put that up again real quick?
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Okay, well, what are their other options? If you look at it in the rest of the space, okay, you have Disney Pinnacle, you have Cryptoys, and VeVe's outperforming, not just them, but just everyone in general on this particular digital collectibles narrative. And okay, well, maybe they could do it themselves. Sure, Disney could maybe do it at their parks, but that really only limits them to the people that go to their parks. Disney's a worldwide company. So if they're going to do something like this, I would say VeVe is the one that they're only going to renew contracts with. Like, well, didn't they just buy 10% of Epic Games for Fortnite? Yes, they did. And they could go in and they could try to offer it on there for digital collectibles, in conjunction with their skins. But I don't think it has to just be one or the other. I think it could be both. I think Disney could do this. And again, they have this community here. If they're going to get in the digital collectibles market, which they have been the past couple of years, why not do it with a proven system of success that they constantly do? They sell out every single drop? No. But do they sell enough where Disney doesn't really have to do anything? They might have to do a little bit of work leading up to the drop, but then after that in the secondary, that they're getting that for life, for the life of the company. And also, it would look really weird if Marvel said, hey, here's the keys to our whole freaking comic book store, and Disney not renew anything with them. That I just don't believe that would happen. And I get it. There are two different executives. It's like 70 different executives at Disney. But, and one does not speak for the other. They have separate contracts. They have separate employees, they have separate things. But again, it would look really off-brand if one kind of went one way and one went the other. That's just kind of what I would have to say for that for right now.
Yeah, I like that. So look, here's another great investor mindset type question, right? As far as how flush VeVe is with cash, how can we be so sure of the health of the company? Operating expenses and employee payroll isn't cheap, and it's a recurring thing, right? You got to pay like biweekly. People get a salary, they're getting the paycheck. Is that enough? Expanding the team while drops aren't doing well is pretty hard. Could VeVe eventually hit a wall? I'll say this, like, I haven't seen a lot of new postings, right, for VeVe where they're growing right now in this moment. So maybe they're just kind of hanging tight now, where they're like, okay, we've got this and we've got a system in place and we're building some things out, and then as new things roll out or the market shifts, then we can continue to grow. Like, I don't know, but like, here's the bottom line. Like, my answer is, like, I don't know all of their expenses, but I do know that, like, earlier this year they were growing quite a bit, even with the drops the way they were. And if they needed more cash, they could go out to the private equity market and see, what the company valuation was and what they could get. They could borrow some money that way if they wanted to. I feel like I've seen VeVe be pretty like almost stingy with money at some points, where I'm kind of like, I feel like you should maybe, like, and this is just me on the outside, right? Like, you're like, why aren't you spending more money for these type of roles? So, like, I do feel like VeVe is pretty careful with their expenditures. And I haven't seen any real signs to where, like, I'm like, ooh, this is weird. This is going down. Like, every drop this month didn't sell out, and every single drop was less and less volume. And now I'm starting to see that more employees who used to work there aren't working there anymore. Are they downsizing? Those are things to be concerned about. Again, it's not like, is VeVe dead? But sometimes you got to cut weight, like to survive. I'm still not seeing that from VeVe. But those are great questions. And I think that people should be asking that, not just about VeVe, about Cryptoys too. Like, because people are buying Cryptoys. It's like, I'm sure they're well capitalized, but, like, what's their cash burn like? And how much runway do they have as I continue to buy these things? I actually like Cryptoys' idea. I'm excited to kind of see, like, the gaming, little metaverse, or, to be able to play with my toys and to be able to swap lightsabers and stuff like that we were promised. I'd love to see that, but that's a question that we got to be asking too, right? Like, so great questions here, guys. I think that's important to cover that. And I just want to say it like that.
I love that name.
So yeah, look, third CTO in 4 years. They hired Michael first from Asia, who's the third CTO. That's good track there. Look, I like Sandbox's idea. If they get something like a Fang, like, would I like that? I would love that. And at some point, I feel like on their growth, at some point, like, that is like, that's the next step. I don't know if they're there yet, but would I leave to see that? Yeah. Let's see. People, Steve talking about transfers. Look, I don't know the answer to. I would say this. People are like, the SEC and transfers. I don't think that. I bring up the SEC a lot for some of the things, especially with the token and exchanges and some of these other things. I don't think that the transfers thing is an SEC thing. I think the transfers thing is like a Bank Secrecy Act, anti-money laundering type thing. But that being said, what I really believe it is the fear from the licensors that they're not going to get their cut, and that people start transferring high value things and sending money on the side to bypass that. I do think that that's a big thing that they're trying to address there. I don't know what the answer is there, but I like transfers back 100%, guys. Like, when I used to go on to Rain's channel before I had my own channel. Rain would bring me on and we'd talk about VeVe, and he'd ask me questions and things, right? We'd have this discussion, and I would snipe the market the day before, and we'd ask a question, and then whoever answered the question, I'd send them that NFT. I loved doing that. It got a lot of engagement. Like us as YouTubers love that, right? To be able to give that out and things. And so we all want transfers back, So I hope that they can find out the answer for that. But in my opinion, I do not believe it's tied to the SEC. Anything like that.
I would love to see transfers come back. I don't know that they will. The argument that they make for why they went away makes sense. I hate it. I feel like KYC and anti-money laundering has gone, like, so overboard since 20 years ago. Like, everything has to be KYC, AML, to where you can't transfer a collectible to someone else because maybe money is getting laundered. Oh my hell. But, like, companies have to comply with what the interpretation of the laws are or be held responsible. So do I like that? Not at all. I think we should be able to send our things to who we want. Do I think they'll bring it back? Probably not.
I think that they will, Rain. I think that they will, but it might be that like there is a small fee tied to it somehow. So like
because they still have to pay the licensor fees too, right? Or the
there's got to be
licensor.
something along those lines, or it's like limited how many transfers that you can do, or maybe you pay a subscription fee, and so like you get this many. So there's I think that there's different ways that they can kind of cover that cost, or
That would be
come
cool.
to an agreement with the licensors to where that can make sense. And but like you got to realize they've got to come to that agreement with like every single licensor, right? And so that's one of the tough things that I think that people kind of forget about when they're talking about like, oh well, HRO did this, or look at what Pokemon is doing. It's like when you only have one IP that you have to deal with, things can move so much more quickly. When you've got 100 IP, it becomes a lot more difficult to be to move in the space. So that's something to be aware of with VeVe, right? And look, Crimson says something really, this is important too, right? Could Disney come out with their own platform altogether, or could they partner with McFarlane Toys? Todd's been in the game way longer, and VeVe has than VeVe. Plus, he has physicals and physicals. So that is potentially something, right? I think that we always have to be open to what ifs, and this is a strong what if. And I would say this with, like Randy said, with Marvel doubling down on their comics and Marvel being owned by Disney, I just don't see that right now. And the other thing is like, why cannibalize your own stuff? Like if this is overall working well for you, because so you see this in the financial industry a lot, where like companies they'll subcontract with another company because they're like, yes, we have the money and we could do this. We could offer this product ourselves. But honestly, it's way better to just like, these guys already have the infrastructure for it and everything. We can still make money. And then it's not the HR headache. It's not all of these other things, all of these other costs that add additional risks to it. So that's something that we have to consider too. Like, would Disney want to be like, are we going to expend all of this extra cash to do this? And could we do it better than what VeVe is doing right now? Or could we just partner with VeVe? And again, they have the infrastructure, and just let them do that and kind of help them out there. So good conversations.
Now, McFarlane has been in the collectibles industry for a long time. He has not been in the digital collectibles industry for very long. Now, I do like something that Todd McFarlane does that I wish VeVe would do. Todd McFarlane has a better pricing strategy, in my opinion, in that he prices starting lower. And I wish VeVe would do that, because then it leaves more chance for growth for the first buyer. And he's right on that. I wish VeVe would get that point. Bored Ape Yacht Club, I felt, got that point, that they price really low, which gives it upside growth, which brings its own momentum. And if VeVe would correct that, I think it would go even better for them. Todd McFarlane, though, he isn't doing anywhere near the volume that VeVe is. Even though I like him, I love his stuff. His physical collectibles are amazing. And I wish him a lot of success. They're also having a lot of growing pains too. It would be weird for Disney to go in partnership with him for digital collectibles. He does not have that much experience with digital collectibles. Has he been in collectibles for a long time? Yes, one of the most experienced with that. But his own stuff is hugely hard to use and been a pain to use too, and hard to navigate. So it'd be really weird for them to change. The grass would feel so greener till they got there and they realized, oh, this grass isn't any greener here. In fact, it's less green. Cool. Yeah. Could Disney make their own thing? Yes, that's a real threat, that they could decide it's not going well enough. We're going to do our own thing, and we're going to pour $200 million into it. Cool. That could happen. They could decide to go that way.
That's a great point, that they could, but the fact that they would, putting in hundreds of millions of dollars in on something that's not guaranteed to work. That's a big risk that they would
that's
not
a
want
risk
to take.
That could get their CEO fired if it goes poorly for him. So I don't think that he would be likely to make that, but he could.
Yeah. And I mean, go with McFarlane, you have again, he's a beast, and I hope he makes it, because he's got the money to funnel into it, throw enough money at the wall, and it could work eventually if he finds that secret sauce. But again, like, ease of use. I mean, it's a lot easier to go in and buy a collectible on VeVe than it is on McFarlane, because you have to go and have to know crypto, and then you have to go to Matic, and then you have it just average Joe six pack is not going to do that. They're just not. Grandma's not going to do that, but grandma can easily go in, put in a credit card over on VeVe. Done. On top of that, you have I was gonna say something. Excuse me. The laws.
I'm gonna comment on this as soon as you're done.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, sure, they could do it, but again, look at their revenues, and also you have a couple of people that kind of took the legs out from under them when they had that employee issue, when they had I don't know if I want to call it insider trading, but they had the employees were not doing the right thing. I don't fault McFarlane for that, but again, they kind of tainted their reputation a little bit, and I'm sure they've cleaned it up since then, but people still remember. Sorry, Don, you're saying?
I do like Todd McFarlane. I have nothing like his pricing strategy, his art, his stuff.
The collectibles are awesome. They look, some of them look super good, super good. Look, Crimson, I don't think it was Rain who was talking about the laws. It was me. Wait, and first of all, look, I got a shout out again, like Fro Ecomi with my Mona Electra shirt. It's so beautiful. I don't know if you guys can see that.
It's amazing.
So funny.
Oh, it's so amazing. I love this shirt so much. I get so many weird looks. It's so great. It's a great conversation starter. Just because someone isn't following the law is no reason for someone else also not follow the law, right? Like, if you get pulled over for speeding and you're like, well, that guy was speeding and you didn't pull him over, the cop's like, yeah, but I got you, right? And so, like I don't know if there's money laundering going on, but I guarantee you, this is a guarantee. I don't know when it's going to happen, but there will be laws passed at some point where these platforms like OpenSea, they will be required to KYC. And the reason that they will be required to KYC is so that then the regulators can monitor that and say, are there suspicious transactions that are happening here? Oh, and by the way, OpenSea, are you keeping track of that? And if not, you're going to get major fines. You could get cease and desist orders and then end the company. So like Crimson, like, you might not like that answer, but that's going to happen. And honestly, at any time, the regulators could come in and shut down these companies in the US. So you can't operate in the US. And by the way, like, they have this reach where, like, if they believe that money laundering has taken place somehow on US soil, if those transactions ran through networks on US, like, there's like, man, a big reach, and they can go after these companies and claw back, like, get millions and millions, tens of millions in fines. So VeVe doesn't want to risk that. Now that's but here's where I'm saying, where with transfers, like, I believe they are KYCing. So like that's where I'm saying I feel like it's not that anymore. It has to do with the fees or something along those lines. I want to see it. We all want to see it happen, but I think that they have to make the IP happy as well and make them feel like they're not going to be missing out on a lot of those recurring sales fees if they open up transfers.
Yeah. And what do you think will happen if Disney opens up their own thing? Of course, they're going to have people KYC, and it might be a closed ecosystem. I mean, it's not going to, like, people have enjoyed the Wild Wild West and Web3 for a while, and cool, but that time is coming to an end. I mean, I know people like to think like, oh, Disney, like, would never. They have Mickey Mouse and Winnie the Pooh. You know what Disney's trying to do right now to, like, this poor guy or this poor woman, where her husband happened to go in and have an allergic reaction, and she's trying to sue them because it happened at one of their restaurants. They're trying to say, oh, no, because he signed up for Disney Plus years ago, he can't sue us, and they're trying to get the case thrown out. If y'all think Disney are just like a bunch of pushovers, they are not. They are sharks. And if any other company like OpenSea or like anyone like Rarible is going to try to sell Disney NFTs without their knowledge, they will shut that down with their lawyers that get paid $1,200 an hour and just goodbye. Like, they don't need the SEC. They can do that by themselves. Sorry, just had to make that out there.
So it's funny, Big A. We should have a Federer on the show. Come on as a guest. I would love if you could bring to my attention a futter who doesn't result to shouting and like even in the comments, like some of these people that we've just banned,
We
because
have to ban a bunch of
they do personal attacks on people. They don't make sound logical arguments, right? They just attack people. And I feel like I've gone on Twitter Spaces, and that's what happens is I just get verbally attacked. I get booted off the space. So sure, if it's on like our channel, like we can control that, but like I'm not going to sit here and take verbal abuse from someone because they can't articulate their argument. So if you could truly bring out someone who honestly could make like logical arguments and we could have like a reasonable discussion, I love that, right? Because anytime someone has legitimate concerns, we've already addressed some of those here in the channel. What are we talking about? We're like, these are great questions. These are things that people need to think about, right? But the futters, like when I disprove them on my channel, they just block me. So give me an example of someone who truly is like intelligent enough to make logical arguments and that can handle a conversation. And like I'm down for being disproven. And like I feel like I've demonstrated that multiple times where like I'm open to correction, like point out where I'm wrong. I was hoping that Crypto Bro would be like, hey, here's the information and this is why you're wrong on this. And let's continue to have that dialogue, right? But instead it's just blocked. So as like entertaining as that would be, that's not fun for me. I don't want to just get here and be like verbally attacked. And that's what's happened on Twitter Spaces and things, right? And those FUD spaces, it's just so energy sucking vampire-ish. Like there's no, like, it might be entertaining for you, but like I'd love for you to come on and just be verbally assaulted for an hour. You know, it's not fun, and it doesn't go anywhere, so it's not fruitful. You know,
I can't watch shows like Fresh and Fit. I think the guys behind it are smart. Like it's just pure argument and quote unquote entertainment. But what I'm looking for is articulate arguments. I love it when someone makes an articulate argument that I look at and I'm like, I hadn't considered that, because I would bail out on my OMI investment if I looked at it and it was not adding up. I was completely wrong on the way it was adding up. And I was like, and I decided, oh my gosh, the probability that it succeeds is way, way lower than the potential upside. And then I would move out. But no, I'm not. And I read all kinds of arguments. I read like people say, and I always keep in mind two things at the same time. Okay, I believe in this project and it may fail. And then I'm always looking for arguments that back up either position. And then if it gets to a certain point, like there are certain projects that I have sold positions in, it's really rare. Sometimes I just decide I'm going to ride it out. I'm not going to sell and just hope it survives, because sometimes the project doesn't have to ultimately survive, just needs to survive until the next bull market. At that point, even shit flies. Cool. Is there a risk? Like there's a couple of things in my portfolio that like they're kind of dead, but they're not dead enough. They still could like do well in the bull market. And so I just hold on to them. Now, OMI's in a very different place than that. I don't know how long we have before the blow off top of the bull market. We're actually already in the bull market itself. It doesn't feel like that the last couple of weeks. That's okay. Those are just emotions and feelings. Those aren't facts. Bitcoin bottomed at 14,000. We're trading above 50,000. We're in the bull market, whether you realize it or not. We're just not in the blow off top, which is the euphoric stage where the altcoins just go massively crazy. And that's what I'm waiting for. And I just need OMI to survive till then. Now, so far, I'm seeing OMI continue to make decisions that I think they survive well past then. So I'm very far away from a point that I'm like, I can no longer believe that OMI will even survive until the coming bull market. I see them making decisions that they'll probably survive 6 or 10 years from now, if not 20 to 30. So for me to suddenly believe they're somehow going to die in the next like 5 months, I'm so far away from that. Cool. Are there other people that disagree with me on that? Yes, but most of the arguments I hear them making are stupid. They're emotional. They're not real actual arguments. They're just the company lies. So-and-so lies. They're stupid. They're this. Where's the argument in that? That's just emotional accusations. Cool. There's no argument there. And keep in mind, I saw this all 4 years ago. The projects that did the very best, That's what all the chats about them was like. That's exactly what it was like. And they were all wrong. And where did those people go? I have no idea where all those fudders went. Would debating them have done me any good? Not at all. Would an audience, if I had had a YouTube channel back then, have liked it? Maybe. I don't know. But would it have done me as an investor any good to debate those people who end up being so wrong? And we're just making emotional attacks? No, it wouldn't have done me any good. And so, like me debating a fudder, I actually appreciate there's been some comments in here that are like, good, this is the type of stuff I like to see. And I love pulling it out, you know, that's like, well, what if Disney pulls their licenses? Cool. That's a good question. What is the risk of that? That's how an investor wants to look at things. You know, what happens if David Yu dies? I mean, that's a real concern. If David Yu dies, can the company, all of a sudden my thing on whether they're going to make it 20 years from now, that's a lot less risky, a lot less uncertain. I really like his leadership. I think part of the reason they have so many top licenses is because of David Yu. Would they be more likely to lose the Disney deal if David Yu died? I think so. That would be a legitimate concern. What happens if that happens? Well, yeah, I'm less bullish. Will they probably survive until the coming bull market? Yes. Will it go as high as cool? What other problems could there be? What would happen if this happened? Okay, cool. We can address those. Those are just real business investment analysis decisions that we got to make when you have an open mind. Some of the stuff is just like, VeVe's lied for 3 years. It's like, come on. Okay, specifically, you didn't even tell me what you think they lied about. So why are you wasting anyone's time with that kind of dumb statement? If you say, oh my gosh, they were wrong about this, then we can actually talk about those specific things.
Yeah.
I think part of the
No, go for it, man.
I think part of the reason why we all get along so well and why we do this show is because if there's anybody that goes and takes a look at any company, you look at the CEO, you look at the team, and then you look at past experiences, you look at all the interviews that they've done, you determine what the cost is of what they're making, how much you can go in and sell that particular product for, and is it scalable, and the opportunity for growth. And anything that the fudders would have brought up, we've already asked ourselves, and we've already asked the team of this over the last several years. It's part of our job to know the fudders' arguments better than they do. And if we want, I'll put on the fudder hat next week and I'll argue for them. I'll articulate it better than they could, and we won't get emotional about it. If we want to do that, but that's up to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, if someone wants to send us all of the fudder arguments, right? And I mean, suppose not a fudder, but a team of three. So if you had three fudders or three people who were frustrated, in a neutral platform, I'm okay with that too. Here's the thing, guys. I'm not afraid to argue my points, right? Because I feel like I've done a lot of research, and if anyone ever brings up a point where I'm I haven't considered that, we've brought it up. I bring those up. It's the emotional arguments Rain's talking about, the emotional accusations. It's just I'm not going to address that because at that point you're emotional, and it doesn't matter. There's no amount of reason that's going to satisfy that emotion, right? There's not, and it's a waste of everyone's time.
It's like trying to talk your ex-girlfriend into feeling differently than she feels about you. You can't.
Yeah. So I mean, who would be the arbiter, of the neutral platform? Who's going to be neutral, right? Because I would be O'Milly Tees, right? He hosts a ton of spaces. I feel O'Milly Tees, I would be fine with him being the arbiter, where he has the control of who to mute and block, or you know what I mean? And someone can't kick that down. Sure. I would do that. Or if people want to bring those arguments, I just say this, Big A, because he's hey, I'd come on and do that. And it's I feel a lot of times, Big A, you actually make the comments that the fudders are making, and we address your comments. So I don't know what other comments that but I don't mind doing that, right? And if they didn't want to, if you felt you were being teamed up on, you could come on my channel and I'll have a debate, or Randy's channel, or Rain's channel, right? Whatever. We're not afraid to discuss and debate these things in a non-emotional and an attacking way. That's the only reason that I just I've tried to do that on Twitter Spaces and just been attacked, and I'm just man, what what a waste of everyone's time. Like that's crazy. But look, I wanted to jump into this to Omilities because one of the agenda items, and look, we're running short on time. We got 19 minutes, right, before we kind of hit 2 hours. But like
all night.
You guys
Omi
can
NFT.
go. I got to bow out in 19 minutes.
Look, I got stuff to do too.
You're making Dashy cry.
I'm gonna be. Hey, Dashy, I saw your trip with Dashy. That was so great, man.
That's funny.
Good pictures.
Rough.
But like Omi the NFT, right? Did you guys were any of you there live when Dr. P and Privy came on and they kind of talked about like the Privy wallet and Stacker and what's going on there? Love to kind of talk about that a little bit.
I was in meetings all that morning. I was able to listen to like the first half hour of it, which is really like the first 15 minutes, because the first 10, 15 minutes, there's music and there's introductions.
Yeah.
I unfortunately didn't get to listen much.
Rain?
No, I didn't get to hear that.
Dang it. Well, because I've only listened, doggone it. I've only been able to listen like the first 30 minutes as well. But like one of the things, it was great where they were kind of talking about the Privy wallet and what it does, right? And basically like they create a wallet and you can sign up with an email and that creates the wallet and a password. But like nothing can be done without you basically putting in your password there. And but there's ways to recover it. They basically split the private keys into 3. It's kind of like almost like a multi-sig is kind of like what it sounded like. But again, I didn't get to listen to the whole thing. But basically what it meant is that no one has control of anything in your Privy wallet except for you, right? Which is awesome because there's concerns about that. And I know that people have brought up, they're like, the whole reason I invested in OMI is because I wanted OMI on the app. And I keep referring people to the Dapper Labs lawsuit. And basically like from the SEC is considering that type of activity, or at least a judge did. It never went to trial, right? But a judge at least said, it sounds enough like a security that I'm going to let this go to trial. And so I think for right now, because there's a lack of clarity, that's probably the safest thing to do, right? Because there's this whole thing about based on the efforts of others, that part of the Howey prong. And it becomes really hard to argue that that's not in play when it's on their own app. They control the token, they control the app, and they control the marketplace. All of those things. Now, if you have a third party like Stacker that is managing that marketplace and that the OMI token is used on that third party marketplace, then it's not based on the efforts of others, which is when they say others, it's the team that built the token and things. So I know that that's not the answer people want. I would love it to just be on the VeVe app and make it that simple as well. But like, unfortunately, this is why I really don't like Gary Gensler. I really don't like how they're interpreting a lot of these things. It's made it so painful, and that lack of clarity has cost projects so much money as they're trying to figure out what they can and can't do. They have to reverse course on things as decisions come out, right? Look, like, so I like Big A says like Ron Cryptotherapy and Danny the Bull, like they're talking about like the OMI token and the price of OMI in the short term. That's like, I don't know how that's like, I guess what concerns do you have there? And like, we've debated this, like we've talked about that thing. So I don't know what new information would come up from that. I don't think that there's been a lot that's changed. And look, I've already come on and publicly apologized for kind of how I went after Ron's Cryptotherapy, because I felt like he was attacking OMI, but really it was just like a different mindset where he's looking at shorter term things. And like the way Rain does it and the way that I agree with that investment thesis is kind of longer term plays. I spread out my investments, right? Like, and so it's very diverse. And so like, I'm okay with the token not performing well in the short term. Like that's the thing. So like, I don't mind alternate views and things like that. I don't know what we would accomplish in that type of discussion that we haven't already that hasn't already been discussed there. So if there's new
I want to encapsulate that really quick if I can.
Oh, sure.
So my bigger thesis coming into crypto was like, what is the most efficient way to get rich? And at first I didn't know. So here's what my thesis is now. What I've seen the most amount of people have the wildest success, whether they had a really high intelligence level or not, is projects that had a good team, that had a good narrative that they were working on while they're really cheap and just dollar cost averaging into them. I've seen a lot of people come in and try to swing trade, like in short-term trade, and do all this. I don't know any of them that are rich from crypto. I know some number of people, and I swear one of them has an IQ under 100. I'm surprised, but all he did was dollar cost average during the bear market in a good project. And when something got cheaper, one of those ones he was interested in, he just bought more. And he became worth millions and millions and millions of dollars in 2021. So as I think of what is the best way to play this market, well, that's my thesis. That's what I've seen over 7 years, is just dollar cost averaging in substantively sound projects. If they get even cheaper, then I just buy more, and then I wait to see if it does play out. And I've seen that be a massive wealth creator. So some other people have some different things. They're looking at the charts and they're like trying to take these short-term trades over a month or two period, and sweet, I'm up 35% here, and oh, I'm up here. Oh shoot, I'm down 65% here. And I haven't seen any of those people make millions of dollars. And so that's just, it's something like I did think when I was new to crypto that I wouldn't be really good at this if I didn't learn how to read the charts and to make all these trades. And I found that's just not the case. Most of the people doing all that stuff, they substantively don't end up wealthy through crypto investing. The people that I saw become multimillionaires just dollar cost average into substantively strong projects when everybody was flooding them, and they just bought more. And then when they were right and those played out huge, they became multimillionaires. So that's what my thesis is. Just I'm playing it that way. Other people want to have a different way of doing it. Cool. We're going to see at the finish line when the bull market goes absolutely crazy, which methodology worked out way better. And people say, oh, they're ahead of you for right now. It's like, I don't care. We're not anywhere near the finish line. When we get to the finish line, we're going to see who's ahead. Cool.
Preach.
Hey, look at this, Mr. Pags. Appreciate that comment. Very interested. Yeah, and I know Pags, like, look, that whole BitForex thing was terrible, and that sucked. That sucked. And so I can understand where you're just like, you know what, like this, I'm just out with that, you know.
Guys, did you get your money back?
Oh yeah,
I know
I'd love to
some
put in
did.
the comments if you were able to. I mean, I know that Rain, you're still waiting on yours, right? But we have started to see people that have gotten that. I know it's very slow process, but they are processing those withdrawals. So I'd love to hear that if that happened, Pags. You know, I don't always agree with some of your takes on things, and that's like, but that's the thing is, I feel like it's always been respectful. Like I didn't see Pags go on and attack people, right? He had a very strong opinion about certain things. Like I think that you were on actually with God's Entry, and you guys were trashing the token and saying it's dead, and I disagree. And God's Entry came on here and basically said the same thing, right? But at the end of the day, we were like, yeah, we agree to disagree, and like those conversations are great. Like, I mean, in that, like, I don't mind having those where people are like, here's why I'm frustrated, here's why I'm out, right? And this is why I think it's dead. And we can have those conversations. So I've always appreciated that Pags never went on like attacking people. So waiting on a QR code to access. I hope you're able to get that out, man. Yeah, I really do. So yeah.
God's Entry was on Monday. He wasn't like on, he just commented on Monday. Me and Rain were on, and he said something about 5-year bullish divergence and that he's waiting. So I think God's Entry might be hopping back in soon as well.
And but here's the point that I made with God's Entry too, right? Is God's Entry is a trader. And so honestly, with the low token, like the low trading volume right now on OMI, as a trader, I wouldn't be touching it either. If I'm looking for short-term gains, I'm going to go to the tokens where there's a lot more volume on a lot more exchanges and play that, honestly. But I like, look, and all I have to go off of is I've been in crypto now for 3.5 years. I've interacted with a lot of people in VCs, and it's crazy, guys. It's so crazy. I mean, there's been so many people there that like, they were like, oh man, like I invested in all these projects, and if I would have just held, like I'd be a multi-millionaire. And they're like, I regret that. And yet they still sell the token as soon as they can get it. Like it hasn't changed. And so for me, like Rain's thesis about holding on to these projects that are the fundamentals are strong, it makes sense to me. Is it risky? Yes. Could it go to zero? Yes. and we'll see. So like, again, like I think that the discussion with like a trader like Ron's Crypto Therapy and Danny DeBoll, it would be like, I think that there are projects with lower market caps that are in like the narrative and the hype, and those are the ones I'm going to go for. And I'd be like, yeah, me too. Like I'm going to go into some of those as well. That's a great idea. Which ones? Cool. Yep. Awesome. And then I'd be like, I like OMI. I like the fundamentals. And I have a bag of it. And because I'm willing to hold on to it for the long term, because I think long term it'll do really well. And they would probably be like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, here's what I'm doing. So like, I don't know how interesting the conversation would be. But I love this. Ryan's just like, Ryan, I don't know why people spend their energy going on and just complaining about like a token. Like, look, it's fine if you're invested. Like I look at Wes, right? Wes continues to put money into VeVe, and he's frustrated with how things go. And so like, I think sometimes people just like want to hear other people's thoughts on that to kind of bounce that off there. But like overall, Wes supports the channel and I appreciate that. But then there's other people who just come on and all they do is crap on the team. And I'm like, don't you have like, isn't there like a Netflix show that you could watch that you'd be enjoying right now? Like why are you here? Why are you on X and on here? I don't know. But that actually, I love the fact that that question earlier of like, when will you write OMI off? The minute that there are no more fudders, and not because the price has gone up, but people have just turned apathetic to VeVe, and there's no one passionate enough to be like, I'm frustrated at this project. I will get concerned at that point because it's just like, man, no one even cares enough to do anything. But as long as there's people like this that, they want to spend their time, their precious time and their energy to FUD the project, then there's it evokes a strong enough emotion that it's a big deal. I don't see people coming on and crapping on Cryptoys. Like on Superstar Monies, because they talk about Cryptoys a lot. I don't see people constantly just continuously multiple people creating different accounts just so that once their account gets blocked, they can come on and do another account and continue to crap on Cryptoys. Like, I don't know. So anyway,
part of the reason is if the project had launched 3 years ago and or prior to 3 years ago, and the prices went really, really high, and then they bought in there, then you would see it. So it's not that Cryptoys is like immune to that. It's just their timing. They only came out, a year and a half ago. So in the bear market, and prices haven't really gone up, but they haven't really gone down. They've gone down some. But like if they had come out 3 years ago and they'd gone way up and then gone down, you would see very different things because people don't want to take ownership that they bought high and they didn't understand the cycles yet. They'd rather displace that ownership and FUD whatever the project is and talk terrible about it and everything because it's everyone else's fault. Cool. Do I know what buying high? Like I had been doing investment from prior to when I got in crypto, but I came in October 2017. So I bought somewhat high and it went higher, and I even bought more as it went higher. Now, what decision I could have done was run around blaming all the projects that I bought too high and blaming them. The decision I made was, well, shoot, dang it. Okay. Now I got to evaluate like, oh, there's this 4-year cycle, and that means we're heading into bigger lows. When do I start accumulating, and what do I start buying? And that's what I use that time instead of complaining, running around, being like, oh my gosh, I bought this and its price is devastating. It's everyone else's fault. I use that time to research and buy cheap, and it financially changed my life for forever. Cool. Some of you are making that decision now. It's probably going to go really well for you. Some people are making the other decision. Cool. And it's probably not going to go very well for them.
Yeah. Agreed. So look, we got just a few minutes. But Randy, I'm going to say, because there's quite a few topics that we didn't get to cover with you that I want to make sure that we chat. So I'll stay on for a little bit longer so we can talk about them. Because I want to make sure that we cover the topics that you wanted to cover too. And that was my bad with just like, I just felt like it's so important to address a lot of the people's comments in here, and keep them involved. And I really liked a lot of the discussion there. So, but we'll stay on. So Rain, why don't we have you have any closing comments that you want, and then Randy and I are going to jump into Twitch and kind of like their streaming fees, right? We've got NFT insurance, and then the Dapper Labs FLOW withdrawal requests. And then we can kind of see if there's any other additional comments we want to cover before we close out.
Yeah. So every market, whether it's stocks, the tech sector of stocks, whether it's real estate, so the markets tend to overboom and then overbust. In crypto, because the Bitcoin halving, it created this really weird thing that it happens every 4 years, and it's more predictable than any other market in there. Like normally you can't say like it's such like a quantified time frame. And no, it's not exactly 4 years. It's about 4 years, just under that. And you can't really predict what month it's going to be, but generally it falls in that timeline, and we're coming up on that. Now, is the blow off top going to be in 3 months or 14 months from now? I don't know, but generally likely somewhere in there. And that's really exciting. And the projects that survive until then, that have something just going on that aren't completely lifeless, their tokens will probably pump massively. And like, that's really exciting to me. These patterns playing out this way is incredible. So I've already been through one cycle that I was prepared for, and it was life-changing. Many of you, this is the first cycle that you're prepared for. I'm really excited for you to experience what that wild ride looks like. For those that can't see it yet and you just hate me, cool. See if it plays out that way. And if it does, well, you missed that opportunity, but maybe you won't miss the next one. And that'll be cool for you. Thanks so much, guys.
Appreciate you, Wayne. It's always a pleasure just chatting with you and listen to your thoughts.
All right. We'll see you, everyone.
Yeah. Peace out.
Randy.
Yeah,
that guy.
Man. Cool. Yeah. And one of the things that, I don't know, I guess like I've looked at a lot of different YouTubers, and I look at their success, and like I guess like I am very partial to Rain's investment. Like it just makes sense to me, right? And like I saw him just make millions as he talked about the projects that he was invested in. And well, first he told me about projects that I ignored, and then he told me, hey, I'm a multimillionaire now, and that's when I finally started to listen, right? But then since then I've seen him make millions in other tokens, and so yeah, there is a bias there, but because I've seen the success, whereas a lot of these other people that people are being like, well, what about this person, what about this person, and I'm like, they've made some gains, but they're not life-changing gains. And so for me, I'm going to try this thesis this way, and I put a lot of money in it this cycle. We'll see how it pans out, right? Yeah, so all right, we're gonna jump into your topic here. Twitch subscription pricing. You wanna jump into that and talk about it?
Yeah, sure. For Twitch, I think it used to be $5 and then $6 for a subscription to subscribe to someone, per month, and now it's $8. People do this all the time. Netflix, Disney Plus, Paramount, you name the streaming service, you have that. And I was wondering, what could VeVe do? And I feel like Rain should definitely be here for this. What could VeVe do to justify something like that? At something relatively small. Now you could have maybe the VeVeverse and then VeVeverse Plus that you go in and you get extra things for. I don't know what that would look like, but one of the things I thought of was insurance on NFTs. I mean, I got insurance on Dashi. I had insurance on my Pokemon cards. I had insurance on a bunch of these other assets that were physical, but it covered everything. And one of the things that included was theft. And even though the digital collectibles and they're digital assets, they can't be destroyed, or I guess they could be burned. But what about if they were hacked? What if they, something happened that was out of your control? You had a bad actor, someone gets the keys, and then they get hacked. I think offering insurance on the NFTs for X amount of dollars a month would be something that could not only, one, bring in a ton of revenue for VeVe, two, is optional, like they're not forcing you to do that. But it's like at an airport when you go and buy airplane tickets. Hey, do you want to insure this trip for $27? And God forbid something happens, you have to change. Yes, yeah, of course, God forbid. You do that. And then at the end of the day, I think VeVe's not going to have to pay anything. Their security's top. I mean, that's how you make a ton of money. That's how Tesla is going to become a multi-trillion-dollar company, is with their insurance that they roll out, that their cars, they crash the least in the amount of cars, especially, and that's just with their drivers, not including safety features, not including full self-driving before that gets solved. They get all this money from insurance each month, and they're never going to have to pay. I mean, they have to pay once in a blue moon. I think VeVe should do that. Rain said that was a bad idea. Do you know why?
Well, I think it's a bad idea.
Oh, tell me why. Tell me why.
Well, so hold on. Let me clarify, because I think there's some confusion on my part and potentially the audience's part. When you brought up Twitch as like a subscription thing, but then you quickly transitioned to NFT insurance, you just brought up the Twitch thing as like a revenue stream, and then like, not that VeVe has like to pay a subscription to play in the VeVe. I don't know. Like, you kind of you transition really quickly into a separate topic from the Twitch topic. So I guess my first question is, are you suggesting that VeVe have, because you did bring up like the VeVeverse, and maybe there's extra features that if you want those, you could pay like a fee. So that's the first topic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay? So I'm gonna address the second topic of NFT insurance, and I would argue the fact that it's a centralized party, like they could just do that anyways. Like, they know who took it, and they could investigate that. Like, I don't know, like, if NFT insurance, like, that's too sketchy for me. Like, there's too many issues with that, right? Because could a VeVe employee somehow get access and steal things, and then VeVe's charging you that insurance? It gets really weird that way. So I like NFT insurance that way on a centralized ecosystem.
Well,
I just don't think it'll fly, man.
I mean, that happens with banking. I mean, in banking, you have insurance like FDIC, or you could even have more, because FDIC only covers, I think, up to $250,000. And then you have employees.
That's a failure, though, of like, if the bank fails, then you get your funds, but then the depositor is not paying that, right? The bank is paying that.
Yeah, but it could be just theft. It could have an employee acting bad, like taking their phone and taking pictures of certain account numbers and doing some signing off on things that way, and then the employee disappears.
They cover that. So you have directors and officers insurance, right, for different things, but like that's all part of like operational costs, where like the bank would just eat that itself if you have like a bad employee doing that, right? Like, the depositor's not paying for that. I mean, like, I'm open to, you keep throwing things out, like, I'm open to like, how could VeVe make revenue or something? And I'm leaning more towards like, okay, if like, well, when the VeVeverse comes out, because let's call that out, right? Like, it's been a long time, and I don't like that there's no communication about that. And we've been told why there's no communication about that. I still don't like that answer. You know, like, it's frustrating from someone who's like, what's going on with that? I'd still have to load. But anyways, when the VeVeverse comes out, like, if there were extra features, it would depend on what those features are. Is it worth it? You know, because like I play Marvel Snap sometimes, right? And like, there's this thing where like every month they kind of do like new characters and stuff, and you can pay like $5. And if you pay the $5, you get like this new card immediately, and there's some other bonuses to it. Where I'm like, yo, $5. I'm like, yeah, like, I'm gonna do that. Like, you know, like that's nothing. So if VeVe could make it worth it to where it makes sense, like, I think that there would definitely be people who would pay that. There would be, you know, Double Quill says like, if I had to sub, I'd go do something else. I wouldn't sub, right? Like, there's people who are like, I'm not putting any money. But then there's other people, depending on what it was, that like, hey, with the VeVeverse, I can do these extra premium things. Sweet, yeah, you know, like I'd be down with that. So yeah, and this is Double Quill with regulations regarding like needing insurance. Now, where I was trying to think about was like a decentralized ecosystem, right? Just like Bored Apes. Could you like, would an insurance company insure Bored Ape? And like, the problem is like, the amount of potential insurance fraud that would be really hard to prove on that.
Yeah.
it just be so hard, because even then with VeVe, let's say that I'm paying out this insurance, right? Like, and it would be weird with VeVe because they would just claw back the item and put it back in your account, right? As opposed to like, this is actually lost. And I think that that's my other like heartburn about it, is it's just like, is it really lost though if they can just claim it back? Like, like think about this. So you're paying car insurance, right? And actually the insurance has a magic wand, and like, so they sell you the car, and then like someone takes the car and wrecks it or whatever, and then like the insurance company is like, magic wand, here's your car back. It didn't cost them any money, and also you get it back. It'd be like, like I don't know how I feel about that.
So, I mean, I don't know what they would do is if, let's say, somebody got your keys, or they got your 2FA somehow, they took it for, or let's say they put it up on the market for a super cheap price, they bought it, and then they sold it to somebody that just doesn't know what it is. Let's say the floor of like a gold logo is 4,000, and they put it up for 2,000. Someone buys it immediately, and then that person that bought it for 2,000, suddenly it gets clawed back because it wasn't theirs. I don't know, maybe something along those lines. Because the person that happened to get their 2,000, they cashed out immediately. VeVe can't go in, and I mean, they can pay for that themselves, be like, hey, we didn't catch this in time. Here's your $2,000 back that you spent on this logo.
That's what credit cards do, right? If there's credit card fraud, credit card companies build enough margin, right, with the fees that they charge merchants, that they cover that. And that's one of the main reasons people use credit cards. I think that if they were like, oh man, anytime I use this card, if it gets stolen and there's these charges, I'm going to have to pay $5,000, credit cards would go out of business because people just wouldn't use them, right? I mean, I hope, like, what I like, Randy, like, I love that you continue to just think about different things, right? And like, so look, just because I don't think it's a good idea doesn't mean it's not a good idea, right? Like, this is just my opinion. I'm just throwing these things out. So I hope you don't think that.
No, that's good. I mean, if I said like, hey, VeVe, do this, and I say, that's a good idea, and they're just worried about their bottom line, and they do it, and then you don't have someone like you say like, hey, this is a bad idea because of XYZ, then they just roll out a really crappy feature that could potentially get them in trouble. So it is good that we talk about this.
Yeah, let's see. Remember when there was this discussion that the cars we drive would get damaged and then they would be cost to repair them, and the damage would show and stuff like that?
That'd be cool. If you have a warring world in VeVe, I could picture something like that. I think that'd be fun.
I think Big A, Randy, what he was saying, cashed out immediately, is cashed out quickly enough that, like, for whatever reason, so okay, let's say that I go on vacation, my account gets hacked, I'm not accessing it, for a month, and then someone's able to hack in, transfer that, and sell and cash out, right? Like, I think that's the scenario. That is funny. Like, obviously VeVe can reverse the transaction to a certain extent, but this still happens like with wire transfers at banks, guys. Like things like this happen. So like, let's give them a little slack, right? Like,
maybe I was lucky, but when I cashed out, it took, I think, less than a day to hit my account. So, I mean, that's pretty quick.
That's way quick. I mean, I've heard of people it's taking longer than that. I mean, shoot, even with like Coinbase, I just sent some money there, and it's just like, I can buy stuff in Coinbase, but I can't transfer it out for 7 days.
Damn. Well, I can do it right away.
No, you can't.
Depends
on how much.
Well, so if 100,000 the last 2 days.
Did you wire it? Did you wire it to the bank? Yeah. Okay. If you wire it.
No, I didn't wire it to the. All right. When you say cash out, do you mean like cash back out to the bank?
No. I wired it. I'm saying. Sorry, no, I'm not cashing out from Coinbase, and that would be the better example. I was thinking of putting cash into Coinbase. You know what I mean? So no, cashing out from Coinbase is pretty painless. But I'm a U.S. customer to a U.S. based company, and
okay.
What I'm saying though is like there are some banks, and it depends on where you're located and the rules around that. But there can be like a waiting period of the cash out. So like. I will just say that you're the first person I've heard of same day cash out. That's not saying that it doesn't happen a lot more, and I'm not
It
aware of
wasn't
it.
the same day for VeVe. I had done it on like a Wednesday evening, and I had gotten the funds in my account on Thursday morning. So it was within 24 hours, but this was also not recently. I don't know if the rules had changed where they have to have like a something period, like a saver period where they have to hold it for 24 hours, but this has happened. I know at least once, but I'm pretty sure it happened a couple times.
So sorry, the reason for my reaction is I'm trying to think of my understanding that typically wire transfers are processed like, so I guess it depends on if it was an ACH or wire transfer and how early that's processed. But like wire transfers are typically processed like mid-afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or at the end of the day, like 4 p.m. So that's why I'm confused. I'm like, if you did it after a bank closed, but maybe New Zealand's bank is open where they have that and they're wiring that. I don't know. Anyways, that's quick. I'll say that within 24 hours is like, that's quick. So
Citibank's very good with that. I had for example, someone at PNC wired my Citibank. Maybe.
that's funny. I want to get on that list. I haven't cashed out yet, so I guess I don't care. But
someone at PNC wired my Citibank at like 9:30 in the morning. I got it by like 10:30. I wired it into Coinbase, and I got it in Coinbase at 12:30. Wired it to a Coinbase wallet, or sent it over to a Coinbase wallet. So but I know some people that it takes like 7 days holding period where they're not allowed to like spend it or anything. So,
yeah. So Pag asks, has there been an expectation of anticipated VeVeVerse alpha release been announced? And if not, why not? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think they have. I don't think I'm breaking anything by saying this. VeVeVerse looks amazing. I've seen multiple photos of it looking absolutely spectacular. And I've also seen photos of it looking okay. And the reason why I think that is because it might depend on your computer and graphics card. And if you have a really good computer with a good if you have a gaming computer with good graphics card, then it's probably going to look fantastic. And if you don't, it's probably going to look okay. It probably just runs on the capability of your computer. So I don't know what the reason for them to not release any alpha video, because they could just go in and they could just pick a couple dozen people, say like, hey, we're going to have a video, like first person of you guys walking around in there, doing whatever. And then they could release that and it would look fantastic. So I'm not sure what the delay is with that. Maybe they have to wait for certain companies to sign off before they can officially release it. I don't know. Right now on OMI to NFT, there are certain collectibles that you can list for OMI, and there are certain ones you can't. So maybe before they release a list or the release a video in VeVeVerse, maybe it has something similar where they have to wait for certain companies to sign off. But this is all just speculation. I've actually no idea what the holdup is.
Yeah, so I'm going to say something. I think that there's two people in a couple different camps. One camp is, like the VeVeVerse is gonna like that will be the answer, hopefully to make OMI like go up in price. I don't think it will. I don't personally. I don't think it probably won't at all is my guess. But it'll be a couple things. It'll be something that was promised that's finally coming to pass, which will be great, and it'll give some people some stuff to do, right? Which I think that's important, is for people to want to use their collectibles in a different way and get back and engaged into their collectibles. It's got to be fun. So I'm hoping that however this is, that it's fun. And if you got high quality, because I've seen some of those pictures where if that's how my collectibles look in the VeVeVerse, oh my gosh, that will be epic. And the pictures I would take, and I would spend time in there, right?
Yeah.
So like even if it's just like a souped up version of like the vault in my app, if they look like that and there's bigger space and things like, and I can do that on the computer, I'm all for that. But Pags, like with respect to that, right? Like one of the things that I've talked about a lot is communication, and it's a stance that VeVe and Ecomi have taken, that like we're not going to announce things until it's ready. I get why they've decided to do that, because in the past, if they make these announcements and they put any sort of timeline or expectation, and then it's not met, like they're like people just get frustrated again. But I don't know, man. I see projects that are just like, here's the roadmap, and they just continuously update people, and they just say, here's this is where we're at, and this is why, this is the issues we've come up against, and so this has set us back, and just kept that open communication. I think that's so important. That's my take on it, you know. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, and so I hope it's a good reason VeVe is taking so long, not a bad reason or something that's not possible to achieve anytime soon. Look, like I would rather them say, here's what's happened, and like we've had to pivot. Like, I don't know. I don't think that they're pivoting. There's still people in beta that are still testing it and stuff. But it is sad that like we haven't had any new people in to test it, and I don't know why. And it would be wonderful to know that information, right? Yeah. So look, there's a lot of different ways to do gamification, right, on the platform as well, and maybe they could integrate that with the VeVeverse. All right. So Dapper Labs, tell me, I have not read the news on this. I'm very interested in this, and I'm assuming it's because of the Dapper Labs lawsuit and like changing things to a DAO, right? Like so like tell me more about this Dapper Labs thing. What's going on there?
An important update. Flow tokens in your Dapper wallet. We hope this message finds you well, blah, 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 blah. Upcoming Crescendo network upgrade. As part of the upcoming upgrade on the Flow blockchain, all Cadence fungible tokens will be ERC20 compatible, and all ERC20 compatible tokens on Flow can be used in Cadence smart contracts without special handling. This will ensure that all Flow applications, whether they are built with Solidity, Cadence, or some mix of both, are fully interoperable with the wider Web3 ecosystem. Means that anything that you collect or own on either chain can seamlessly be transferred between both networks. I think that's great. And they call an action required for Dapper Wallet Flow token holders. They say that they will discontinue support for USDC on Cadence effective 12 a.m. Pacific time, 3 September 2024. It only impacts USDC on Flow and Flow in Dapper Wallet. So you must withdraw your Flow tokens held in your Dapper Wallet to a Flow wallet by 3 September 2024. To guide you through this process, we have a detailed support article. On my Tangem, I don't think it supports Flow. Where do you hold your Flow? Or where could you hold your Flow? You don't have to tell me exactly where.
Wait, what's the question? I guess I didn't catch the question.
Oh,
where do I hold my Flow? But like,
on my Tangem, it doesn't support Flow, and neither does any Trust wallet that I've owned. So like, where could you hold your Flow? Because like, the only other place I could hold it is on Coinbase, and I could hold it there, but God forbid Coinbase goes down. I don't want to be out like $100-something thousand because it went down. I want to hold self-custody.
Yeah, I don't own any Flow, so I don't know. Look, like, I mean, I feel like with NFT projects and tokens, I'm good with OMI. Like, honestly, like in that narrative, like that's where it is. I'm putting money into AI, long gaming, Web3 gaming, I think is a big thing. So like Avalanche, even just like the Avalanche token, but then, so yeah, like don't know. I can't answer the question. And like the Cadence blockchain, I guess like I'm not familiar with Cadence blockchain. I haven't interacted with that, and maybe it's because I own Dapper, like I own like NBA Top Shots. Like I own not a ton of those NFTs, but like an okay amount, and like I bought some of the players that I really, really like, and some of their special moments and things, and I'm happy with it. It's fun to interact with that. But the Flow token, I don't know. I don't got an answer for you there, man. Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good, fam. But yeah, that's just what we would have to do. So that's the Flow update. Just warning people that have Flow token. I have a bunch.
Yeah, well, look, and like let's be honest, a lot of the people watching right now follow you on your channel, and so like they might own. I think it's important to bring up to your listeners, right? So like I'm gonna have to dive into that. Maybe like I'll have to talk with you a little bit more about Flow and like because I know Rain's big on Flow too, and I just we'll have to have a conversation. Maybe I need to put some money into Flow.
Especially now, the prices are pretty good. Not financial.
Let's see. So I'll say that. So Coinbase lets you use crypto funds immediately off exchange as long as you have other assets on exchange as collateral. I would disagree with that. From my experience, just barely. So I just put in some funds. I have way more assets on Coinbase than what I just transferred in, and they're only letting me take out like I can only use $1,000 of the funds I put in.
Oh.
That's the only thing that I can send off right now. For the rest of the funds, I have to wait 7 days. Even though like the assets I have on there like far outweigh like the rest that I would be sending off. So, hey, this is fun. What's up? And hey, Sleeping also said and dog. He never says that. Do you remember how it was funny? I give him a hard time about that. How he'd always just be like, Randy. That means a lot, Sleeping. And you know what? So I was chatting with Sanjay, and he was like, "Oh, I got this sleeping hat and this sleeping hat," and I was like, "What the heck, man? How did everyone get these freaking sleeping hats?" And he was like, "Oh, he sold them." And I guess like at the time, like when he sold these hats, like I just wasn't aware of his channel, and didn't know that he sold them. I didn't know if he did giveaways and stuff like that. But I was always just like, how the crap did I miss out on these freaking sleeping hats? And so, but it was, so I finally learned that I would have had a freaking bottom, and that it was like a blind box, I guess. And that like, there's the secret rares and stuff. So listen, Sleeping, if you ever do another sale of hats or maybe hoodies or like whatever, right? Someone like, I got to find out. We got to make sure that I'm in the know about this, because I need some sleeping gear, some sleeping swag.
Instantly.
Like, I don't doubt it, man. You're a rock star. So dude, Sleeping is so good. If I am assuming that everyone already follows Sleeping. If you don't, man, like the guy's knowledge, first of all, of just comics in general is phenomenal, but then also just like the business sense. So yeah, you got to listen to him. Follow him on his channel. It's awesome. Fun, super fun and entertaining as well. Look, I am getting a FaceTime just now from the wifey to chat with the kiddos. So I need to wrap it up. Right. So Randy, do you have some final thoughts real quick?
Yeah. Obviously the comics, what you said, and it's just to talk Sleeping up a bit. We had an amazing conversation the other day, and it was one of my favorites, and I would like to have him on again. I've said this before, I'll say it again. There's a part of the reason why I feel so comfortable at VeVe is because there's so many intelligent people that are in it and are still buying, and whales are, I mean, there's a reason why they're whales. They make a lot of smart decisions. So I know not everybody has that network, and not everybody sees that. Show me your 5 friends, I'll show you, who you are. And some people, they might be first-time investors and they might be selling, which is fine. That's their prerogative as long as they're made people. But let me try to show you other people that aren't selling and are actively buying. And it's not that they're waiting on the sidelines, which again, if you are, that's okay too. That's, up to you. But there's a whole other world out there. And I feel like people get caught in these fish bowls. They get caught in these little echo chambers with other people like them, because misery loves company. And like sell, and then it goes down 10 or 20%. Like, oh, see, told you it's a good idea to sell. And it's like, maybe short term, but in the long term, still very much believe that OMI is, that's why it's my homie. And that's why it's currently my biggest bag. And always buying more. And yeah, trying to buy as much as possible.
I appreciate that, man. So to round it out, first of all, appreciate everyone who supports this channel. in this show. It means a lot. It really does. And I love the comments that people make and just like the continued support. Like, man, I really like, I'm grateful for that. So shout out to all of you guys who come on, even if it's the FUD that does provide some entertainment, as long as, again, it's not attacking. But look, for me, first of all, VeVe and OMI is a risk. There is a complete risk of loss. I think the chances right now in the short term are low for me. But people have to make their own financial decisions. Don't go off of anything I say or anything that Randy says. You can listen to a lot of different opinions. And I think that it's good to do that, right? To educate yourself and be like, are there things that I'm missing? And then make the decision that's right for you, right? And the Sketch Lab said that, right? Like, people got to evaluate. And if at some point you're just like, like, you're not happy with this, and your tokens or whatever, like, you got to do what's best for you, right? But for me, like, I am long-term bullish on the digital collecting being a thing in the future. And maybe we are in the Atari stage, right? And it's going to take 30 years before we really get to gaming where it's just like super immersive and fun and mass. In fact, like, hold on, I got this. Hold on.
Hang on. Everyone, I would like to talk to you. Oh, okay, he's back.
Nope, sorry. So shout out to Mr. MC1 and also to Potential Human and to Pyro, RIP Pyro, man. But Sanjay, so Pyro and Potential Human had created from an Atari cartridge, right? This wallet got a whole $1 in there, but it's got the chip and everything.
Oh,
and
that's so
they've
cool.
created it into a little wallet here, and man, it was awesome. And they gave it to MC1. He has his own, and then he gave one to gift, and he gave me that, man. And you got to interact with Mr. MC1, and that was that tweet, man. Just like, man, Mr. MC1. I get a little emotional about it, man. Like, there's just the quality of people in this space, in this VeVe community is incredible. But where I was going with this is maybe the digital collecting narrative is in the Atari stage, and it's going to take a long time. But I truly, and I don't think it will take that long, because I think that with AI and how that's progressing and the ability to basically create like a digital metaverse, I think it's coming a lot quicker than in the past, like how things have developed in the past. And so I just think the digital collecting narrative, like, it will be a mass, like the masses will do that. They will adopt digital collecting at some point. And if VeVe's still around, these FAs are going to be a big deal. Like, and I'm bullish. I love David Yu's passion. Timelines have been missed. And I assess those, but honestly, like, long-term bullish on the project and the team. And I'm excited to see how Foster and the Ecomi team continue to build out utility for the token and see where that goes. But again, like it could go to 0, and I'm okay. Like, I don't want it to, and I continue to buy at these prices. I'm excited to stack more because I think the risk reward ratio is significant. And I'm okay with that risk. So anyways, I appreciate all you guys. Oh, look. So yeah, this is Mr. MC1, Pyro, and Potential Human for the lovely and rare and special gift. It is. So this is going to be going up in my background here. I will not be using it as a wallet. It's too big of a deal, and I don't want to see that get used over time. So super cool, man. And I appreciate y'all. And with that, we'll bounce in. Then Randy, I'll talk to you real quick. Just a second.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, in the